Hello, guys and gals. So today we got some special stuff planned. Well, I didn't plan it, but somebody planned it, and I got the information, on when it was going on. I contacted the correct people, and I do have permission to restream this. So we are going to be watching the developer. What did they call it? I want to get the name of it right. Patch 2.4 public test realm, sort of like almost like a round table, I guess. With it's going to be Mr. Llama is going to be there. We're also going to have lead designer Robert Gallerani, senior game producer Matthew Cederquist. So we're going to have some interesting things going on here. Apparently, they're going to be talking about, like what kind of items are going to be added into the game, like the new rune words, some of the things that they plan on doing to change the characters. They're going to give us more information than what we got earlier. So if you guys are unfamiliar with the changes that have taken place, if you go to my website, actually, I'll just link it for you guys. It doesn't take me but a second. So this is the video on the changes. If you want to catch up on this, you do have time. So the roundtable sort of conference that's going to be going on is not going to start until 2 p.m. So we do have a little bit of time. And in that meantime, we can talk about some of the changes. If you want to, I'm going to get everything set up here on my end, throw a couple posts up and whatnot, and once we've got the actual stream running, we'll watch it, and I'll commentate as I'm able, because obviously I can't talk back and forth with these people, but at least I can hear them. I can make my comments on what they're saying, and then afterward we'll talk about what's going on as well. So when we get some particularly juicy bits of information, we can go over those particularly juicy bits of information. So that's pretty cool. All right, to get this set up here, make sure we've got everything turned on. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if you can't. Of course, if you couldn't hear me, you wouldn't know I was asking if you could hear me. Ponderances. I'm just going to copy the patch notes here. Update the thumbnail. All right, so that's set up. We are good to go on that end. So I'm streaming on YouTube and Twitch, so whichever one you guys prefer. The chats will be translated across both, so feel free to chat to your heart's content. The YouTube one's a little bit slower than the Twitch one, and I really don't know why. Bink, 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 bink. So many little details and things to do when you're streaming. So many little stuffs. So many little stuffs. I hope you guys saw my newest videos. I did put out two videos recently on some new items. And I'm actually kind of excited at the prospect of potentially being able to create some videos on items that have never existed before. That is going to be fun. I really do hope they add some very interesting items into the game with ladder. All right, I think we are almost good to go. Bink, bink, bink. I'll make sure I got the patch notes up, so that I can go over those as they're talking. I guess that'll be fun if they've got anything specific to say. I can reference the patch notes. We might be able to figure out. We might be able to figure something out depending on what they say. They might let something slip, so to speak. Something may slip. All right. So until the stream starts, which is only about 40 some odd minutes away, we'll probably be playing around talking about some of this stuff. I figure why not go over it a little bit beforehand. Wait, no, that's not right. Deleted. All right. I'm also going to hop into Discord too, just in case anybody wants to come in and say hi. Let's see, what do we got here on Discord? I mean, there's nobody in here right now, but we'll just hop into one of these channels. And if anybody shows up and says hi, we can talk. Who we got in here today? We got Martian. We got Evan. What's up, Evan? We got Jaren7, Calagreen, Arigato. Haha, nice name. It's actually pretty cool. Pegasus. That's pretty cool. If I understood correctly, you can keep your items from the ladder, like hoping I can give them to other non-ladder character of mine. Yeah, so after the ladder ends, Evan, when all the ladder characters are booted to non-ladder, all the ladder items remain. So you're able to hang on to them. Which means that you can actually have ladder-only rune words in non-ladder, but they have to be from a character that gets booted from ladder to non-ladder. So at the end of each season, essentially, those items will sort of propagate their way down into the non-ladder environment. What's up, Chimera? And thank you, Sapphire Squire. You missed ladder? There's been no ladder so far, Pegasus. So that's what this is all about. Is they've announced ladder. It's coming next year sometime. They didn't give an exact specific date, but I think that's probably what we're going to be getting now. Apparently, they're still talking about the duration of the ladder. They were thinking 4 months. They haven't really decided yet, I don't think. Let's just go murder some stuff, shall we? So they talked a lot about changes, and they kind of went really broad on them too. They were like, and we're gonna change this, 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 and we're gonna look at this and 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 this. And they were pretty exact in saying what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do. What does the gem do, Trunglay? The gem is a very specific device that is used to simulate a rather silly thing that used to happen in Diablo 1. This is my 100% accurate assumption. 100% accurate assumption with logic behind it. So in Diablo 1, when Diablo 1 existed, there was no secret cow level. The cow level did not exist. But there was a rumor that if you clicked on the cows enough times, the cows would eventually spawn the secret cow level. The cows were alive, by the way. And when you clicked on the cows would say various things. They would go moo, moo, and they would say moo in different ways, and eventually they would moo meanly at you. But they never actually did anything because it was just a rumor that was created on the forums. The rumor that propagated very quickly and was used to troll other people in the process. Well, think about clicking on a cow endlessly. You're just clicking. You're clicking on the cow endlessly, and you never stop, right? So when Diablo 2 came out, they eventually embraced the whole secret cow level thing, and they actually made a secret cow level. But lost in the process was the endless thing that you could click on that had no actual real purpose. And if you click on the secret, the gem enough in Diablo 2, eventually the gem will say one of two things. First, you get perfect gem activated, which does, as far as I can tell, does nothing. And the very, very rare thing that the gem will occasionally say is moo. And as soon as you hear the word, you see the word moo on there, it's gotta click in your mind that that's what the gem is for. It is the endless clicking object that the cows represented in Diablo 1 transferred over to Diablo 2. They basically made a new secret cow level object, something that had no actual real purpose that people would click on, that people would think had an actual real purpose, but didn't. There you go. It always takes so long to explain that. I mean, I kind of figured it was coming eventually, Lucas. It just, I didn't think it would be coming so soon. I thought they would wait a little bit longer. But then, you know, they're not talking about adding this patch into the game directly. They're saying public test realm. They're saying this is going to be something that we're going to be testing. So I can see it from that point of view. It's something that they're testing, not something that they're saying is most definitely going to be in the game. They're specifically saying, hey, we're going to be working on this. We're going to be testing it, which I feel like is a lot better than the others. What top skills do I think are any of above? I feel like Inferno and Arctic Blast have been the laughingstock of the entire Diablo 2 world for long enough, and I think both Inferno and Arctic Blast have seen their time. Their time needs to come. They need to figure out some way to make these skills viable. They've got to make some way to make them viable. Exploding Arrow isn't actually that bad, Evan. I actually have an Exploding Arrow Amazon, and she does pretty well. But Inferno, it doesn't really matter. You can have the most godlike Inferno that ever existed, and it still sucks. Die, sir. No, no. Why is it so terrible? Oh, you guys are immune to fire. Well, that's not helpful. Well, they are buffing conversion, Pegasus, in a way. So they are buffing conversion by buffing thorns. So if you were going to be a conversion paladin, you probably would be running thorns, some type of thornadin, and they're going to be buffing thorns, and they're going to make it more worthwhile, which I'm actually kind of interested in. And thorns being buffed is not just a buff to paladins. Thorns being buffed is a buff to every character that uses thorns. And they're also talking about fixing summon druids, and thorns is also a buff to summon druids. What's up, Vermilion20? Let's take a look at some of these underused skills, shall we? So, Skelly Mages. Let's look at Skelly Mages. My poor little skelly mages, they just can't make it. My poor little skelly mages gonna break it. My poor little skelly mages coming at you. Poor little skelly mages blocking doors. I've got 9 skelly mages in my current setup, which is a fairly large number of skelly mages. And if I take them to Act 1 Dark Wood, they're going to get their butts kicked. You guys watch. I'm even going to do them a solid here. All right, so hold on. We're going to make this the best skelly mages that could possibly ever be. I believe I have a... I think I lost a couple skelly mages with this, but I have lower resistance on this head, so let's grab the lower resistance, which should give them more damage. So I'm going to spam lower resistance for them, and we're going to see how good they can be. Of course, I only have level 9 lower resistance, but that's still negative 54%. Did I get a haircut? Not particularly, Vermilion. So I have my haircut is the kind of haircut that needs maintenance, and it does get kind of shaggy if I don't keep up with it. So basically how my haircut works is my sides of my head are shaved, like, and the back of my head is shaved, but I still got this this kind of like a ponytail going on. So what I have to do every now and then is I just have to reshave it. So I did just recently reshave the shaved portions. My poor little skelly mages. Are you guys gonna kill stuff or no? You got lower resist up. You are just in there doing it. Now come on, get to work. Why are you guys so terrible? Kill this Carver Shaman already. My Mercenary is doing all the work. You guys suck. What's up and Adam? Ooh, a jewel. I like jewels. Passively listening while I work. Oh, we're listening while we work. Yes, we're listening while we work. Yes, we're listening while we work. Ha. Bet you didn't expect that. Gotta be unpredictable around here. As unpredictable as the wind. Where is the likely place to find an Andariel's Visage? Well, let's look it up, shall we? This can be something fun that we can do. I like tier roads. This can be like a little tutorial for those of you guys who have never looked up an item to find out where it drops. Alright, so here we go. So we need to go to the website first. So let me go ahead and pull up a website, and we're going to search for TC class Diablo. Alright, and I'm going to bring this up on the screen so you can see what I'm doing. Bink, bink, bink. Why is it so small? Get big. No. 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 Get the big, sir. Alright. So here is the website, the Google website. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to treasure classes right here. All right, and in the treasure classes list, you're going to find Andariel's Visage. So we're going to go to Andariel's Visage. I'm going to type in the whole thing just to be silly. All right. So Andariel's Visage is a TC class 75 item, and what this means is that the base item or Andariel's Visage can drop here. So that is the Demon Head. So the Demon Head requires at bare minimum a TC class of 74, which is essentially an area class of level 72. However, if you look at Andariel's Visage has this number 85 next to it, which is the level of the unique. So the base item can drop in TC class 74, but the item itself is a Q level 85, which means it's a relatively high level item. So Q level 85 items actually technically are treasure class 87 items. So if you have an item which is classed at a Q level of 85, you might as well just assume that it's a treasure class 87 item. It doesn't work that way specifically, and I'm oversimplifying it for the purposes of the explanation. But you're not going to find Andariel's Visage in a treasure class 75 zone. All right, so the next thing we got to do is we have to search for area level Diablo 2. All right, so we go to area level Diablo 2, and what we're looking for is we're looking for a zone, which is level 85. So you can see here the pit level 1, pit level 2 are level 85. We can scroll down the list, and you see there's not a lot of 85 zones. Maggot layer level 3 is level 85. A good farming spot for an Amazon. Bow Amazon. Ancient Tunnels, 85. We've got Forgotten Temple, that's 85. And we've also got the Kuros Causeway 2 temples, which is Disused Reliquary, Ruined Fane, those are both 85. We've got River Flame and Chaos Sanctuary, those are both 85. And then on top of that, we've got the Worldstone Keep zones. So Ariad Summit, Ariad Summit doesn't have any monsters in it, but these zones right here, and then also the bosses themselves. So each one of the bosses has their own level, which is important. So you have to type in something like boss Diablo 2, or we'll do super unique. That's a better super uniques. I typed in that terrible. So here's a list of the super uniques, and you can go over each individual super unique, and you can take a look at their levels. Super uniques tend to have a different level than normal. So if we take a look at Bale, for instance, and we scroll down to his level list here, which is too far down. No, I want Bale in Diablo 2, not Bale in Diablo 3. This website's laggy. Alright, in Diablo 2. Sometimes it's hard to find the information, the exact information that you're looking for. Let's try this one. All right, so this is probably the right one here. So let's take a look at Bale on this list. Uber Diablo page. All right, so here we go. We've got Bale 60, 75, and 99. So in Hell difficulty, he is level 99. And it's interesting. So you have to look up this stuff, and you have to kind of figure out exactly where these items drop from. Either that, or you just run around and try and get lucky. Twitch and YouTube viewers should both be able to get both chats. It does flip-flop things back and forth. So Upping Adam, when Upping Adam talks, it should be translating that over to YouTube. As you can see up here with my chat, see how Upping Adam's name has the Twitch symbol next to it, and Evans has the YouTube symbol next to it. So both of them should be relaying back and forth. Just double check on Twitch real quick. Yeah, so yeah, it is actually showing up both of them. And I go over to YouTube, and just to make sure. Yep, both of them are coming through. YouTube tends to be a little bit slower though. I don't know why YouTube is so slow. If you want to join the kinship, Evan, you need to go to the Discord and shoot me a message in there. There is a charter in the Discord that you can use. You're going to have to read that and make sure you agree to the charter before we begin. And right now we're pretty much just waiting on a llama to become live. So I'm going to keep that open in the background so that I can see that just in case. Hello, YouTube. That's right. How is the kitty? I should probably go get the kitty. I'll bring him here. Unfortunately, he's hiding under the bed, so... He decided he wanted to hide under the bed. It's his decision, not mine. All right, let's pick another underused skill class, shall we? So, what other characters have skills that are underused? We took a look at Inferno. I don't have a Druid just yet. You know what we can take a look at? We can take a look at a melee Zon. I actually have a melee Zon. She may need some equipment, though. Let me steal her some... Let me steal her something. So I think she needs a couple things like a shield and some various pieces of equipment. Crescent Moon is very good depending on your class, Chimera. Especially if you're a lightning sorceress. I've seen a lot of lightning sorcerers actually run Crescent Moon for that negative lightning resistance. It's a really huge bonus to damage. A lot more than people realize. A lot more than people realize, yes. Alright, so we've got the +2 to all skills. And, I don't know where my Amazon torch is. Go ahead and grab the Annihilist Charm. I think she might have been using Gore Riders. I'm not sure. Ow. Noob question from a veteran. Keith wants me to make an increased stamina speed barbarian. D2 player, do Might Aura and Fanaticism Aura stack with one another? Like Might Aura increases Fanaticism damage further, thus overall increasing damage output. Yes, they do in fact stack. They are both considered off-weapon ED, and off-weapon ED is a very good form of weapon enhancement. It's not as good as the one that's on weapon, but Might and Fanaticism do stack together to give you more damage, as well as concentration. And you can stack all of them, by the way. You can have a Merc who is using a Might, who is wielding the Pride Polearm, who is using giving him concentration aura, so he will have Might and concentration. And then you can also use a Faith Bow or a Beast Axe and get Fanaticism as well. And you can have all three at the same time. All three at the same time. The standard should get a use. I agree. I agree. Most definitely. I have a really hard time choosing that, Vermilion. Really, really hard time choosing. Because I like so many classes. I really, really do. I like so many different ones. It's a hard choice for me. It would be easier for me to tell you which ones I don't like than it would be to tell you which ones I do. Like, that's the silliness of it all. I would have an easier time telling you which ones I don't like. And even then, that's not even a good example, because it's not that I don't like them. It's more along the lines of that that I just prefer some other classes. Bum, 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 bum. Trying to put together the equipment for my girl so I can play her. Of course, by the time I put together the equipment, the developer stream should be up and running. And there's my Amazon Turchilurch. Turchilurch, 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 Turchilurch. Ingandangle Turchilurch, Ingamangle Turchilurch. Ingamangle Turchilurch. I had actually planned on building some sort of elemental melee fire claw something druid at some point. So it's interesting that they fixed it. If they do things properly, David, probably the meta will change quite a bit, which is I don't think necessarily a bad thing. I don't think people are particularly fond of the whole sorceress hammered-in meta. Pretty much nobody plays any other classes except for sorceress and hammered-in, and when you do, you get mocked by the people who play only sorceresses and hammered-ins. It's all rather silly. It is all rather silly. Where is my girl? There you are. That's right. I'm gonna start dropping rings on purpose. 1, 2, 3, Dune Buggy. I'm gonna be dropping like ding, ding. Here we go. You ready? Mother sucker. Where's my what am I doing? What am I doing in here? Got the javelin, I got the crushing blow. I'm missing a belt. I don't even got a belt. Where's my belt at? I need a belt. Belts are importante. Oh, please don't eat me, antlions. I'll try my best to go. I want to run real fast, and I'll let you know. I'm not very tasty, and I've got no meat on the bone. Oh, please, Mr. Antlions, leave me alone. Who needs a belt, apparently? Apparently, I don't need a belt. What's the belts are for? I don't know. You know what this girl probably needs? She probably needs an Nosferatu's coil, which I do have laying around somewhere. That would probably be a good belt for her. But for right now, I mean, I really just don't have a belt for her. So here, have a Tranquil's. There you go. Tranquil's belt, the best belt ever. Let's go. So this character I was actually playing around with Impale because I wanted to see how it was doing in the new version of the game. And she is running level 33 Impale, which is a fairly high level. She's got 900% attack rating and 1,100% to her damage increase, which is a pretty high number. And you know what I was thinking? As good as Thunderstrokes is, the physical damage on it isn't the most amazing for this particular test. I would probably be better off with an Ethereal Balrog's Demon Arch. The Ethereal Demon Arch probably would work better for this particular test, and I know I have one sitting around, so let me go grab that real quick. I don't know right off the top of my head where it's hiding, though, so it's going to take me a second. Self-composed songs. Yes, I used to have an ex-girlfriend a long time ago, and this is why she's an ex. She absolutely hated my self-composed songs. But she loved Weird Al Yankovic. You guys know who Weird Al Yankovic is? He's a guy who literally makes self-composed songs to make fun of other songs, and he's great at it. If you guys have never heard Weird Al Yankovic's songs, his made-up songs, he's got some really cool ones. And I have had a lot of fun listening to him. But it totally is the same thing. It's the same thing. I'm just making fun. I'm having fun making fun. It's a fun making fun time. All right, looks like they're gathering for the stream. He's not actually streaming yet, but they're gathering. He actually just kind of like started the live stream, but it's not actually up. So let me just go ahead and I'm going to see if I can pull this up just so that you guys can sort of see it. I'll bring it up in the... Well, he's already got about 2,000 people watching his stream, and he's not even live. Like, there's literally nothing on the screen except like a guy with a helmet. Like, that's it. It's like a guy with a helmet. That's it. That's all that's going on right now, and he's got like 2,000 people on the stream. So we're just going to put this in the corner, and as soon as he goes live, I'll bring it up for in full screen, of course, so that we can look at it. Yeah, we're a little bit early. We're early. That's not a big deal. We're excited. That's all. We're just excited. I think I've listened to every single genre of songs, Vermilion. Everything from like Mongolian throat music to classical from like Beethoven. Like it's there's a lot of good songs out there, and I'm not really like a genre person. Like if I hear a song and it makes my foot tap and I like it, I'm gonna listen to this song that makes my foot tap and I like it. That's pretty much all there is to that. Yeah, he's live, but he's not live. So it's like a splash screen. He's still prepping. I'm assuming they've still got some stuff going on in the background, and we'll figure it out. I have it up in the top right hand corner, up in the top right hand corner over there, so you guys can follow along. And as soon as it goes live, we'll bring it up to full screen so we can see it. Speaking of armor, that's a good idea. I like that idea, Kitty. I'm going to have to go get my armor. I think we're going to wear armor for this. It's a good idea. I shall return. Itadakimasu! Oh, don't worry, Up and Adam. You can still see my dad bod through the armor. Trust me. Whew, it's heavy. But that would be because it's real. It's very real. It's very steel. It's very real steel. It's a steel, real steel. Ha-ha. Sonic. I'm so frustrated by other people waiting. wailing over the fact that the sacred game is being altered. Like, did they seriously believe it was going to be left in perpetuity untouched? Well, I'll make a guess. I don't think people are so much concerned about the sacredness of the game being changed. It's just that we've searched for decades. If you're an OG Diablo fan, you played Diablo, you got addicted to Diablo, and if you got addicted to a Diablo like the rest of us, you know as well as the rest of us that it's hard to come up with a good game to replace Diablo, because we've searched for nearly 2 decades trying to find an equitable replacement for Diablo. So yeah, we're going to be a little fearful at the idea of it being messed up. Changes can be a good thing, and changes can also be an extremely bad thing. Let's not pretend for an instant that changes are always a good thing. Sometimes changes will absolutely ruin a game. Sometimes changes are the best thing that ever happened to the game. What is going to happen next, we don't know. But I'm still excited. Tentatively excited, but I'm excited. Oh, that's my non-ethereal one. I need the ethereal one. So that's the non-ethereal Demon's Arch. I need the ethereal Demon Arch. I'm getting close, though. I feel like the Demon Arch is going to be one of the best choices for this particular, what I'm trying to do, which is the Impale. The Impale-Palo. Impaleo's on. I hung on to it specifically for this purpose, too. Did a video on Demon Arch recently as well. What if you guys have seen that? Oh, there's my T-Guns. War Traps, Sandstorm Strikes. He ain't got it. Ah, yes, the coffee. No, you didn't miss it, Brandon. It's we got about 11 minutes till it starts. 11 minutes. You know what? In the meantime, while it is still, while we are waiting, I might as well just bring this up so you guys can see the chat. Let me move my little tip jar here. We're already going to have a lot on the screen, so we don't need more on the screen on top of that. Ooh, there's my really high physical damage one. Let's bring that over for right now. That actually might be better than Demon's Arch. We'll see. I believe Demon's Arch does have the increased attack speed, though, so... most likely, yes. Also going to be a new character day after this, after the developer patch. Bon Appetit. So I've pretty much checked every single character here. Let me check some of my other characters. Oh, man, no, man. Where's the cat? He's hiding. He's hiding under the bed. I can't get him. He's a little rude dude. A little rude dude. No, he's incredibly smart. He is incredibly intelligent, I have to admit. I don't think I've ever actually seen a cat as smart as him. What is the next unique item you are going to make a video on? Well, I have a list, believe it or not, of suggestions. And I've been working off of the list of suggestions for this particular point. If you guys don't have any suggestions, I'll probably just pick whatever I feel like. But as of right now, the next item on the suggestion list is Blood Moon. I'm also going to be doing the Grandfather, Gladiator's Bane, Stormlash, Centurion, Razor's Edge, Schaefer's Hammer, and Vampire Gaze. That's my current list. Baby's first Uber. Lenyemo. I will add it to the list, sir. Lenyemo. Sash. Hey, there he is. Look at him. That's the good boy. That's the... Oh, yes. Hold on. You guys got to see my little... You got to see my little ethereal Balrog spear. Check out Mr. Demon Arch. Oh, yes. Look at now. It... That was all. That was all. In 8 minutes, mob. 8 minutes. Begins bonnet after that, if I can suggest two. Oh, okay. All right. 2 suggestions. You're approaching your limits, sir. Ethereal Demon Fart. It does have that potency, mob. It does indeed have that potency. Worry not for others, for the Demon Fart comes for you. The Demon Fart comes for you. The Demon Fart. Alright, we'll put these in the Jankalinks. Alright, so Impale. Impale is a very interesting skill. It's pretty interesting. It's very slow, and it does a massive amount of damage, physical damage. While we're waiting, we've still got a couple minutes, so let's keep his stream up here on the corner while we play around with Impale, shall we? So Impale does a really massive amount of damage, as you can see by the amount of HP that came off of that monster. When I hit a target, it hurts. But it's really slow. I mean, imagine, if you will, it's like this really long, slow wind-up of an attack. I mean, you're like... And the slowness of the attack is supposed to be offset by the amount of damage that you're putting out. So theoretically, if you were, you know, you're supposed to be like... It's supposed to be an equal... formula that the amount of damage I'm putting out per strike is supposed to be equivalent to somebody who's attacking extremely fast. And this is interesting though, because the Amazon has all these issues with being interrupted and stuff, and Impale is so long and so slow that it tends to get interrupted a lot, and this is a big problem for them. I'm hoping that they do something about Impale. The other skill that they really need to do something about is Fend, and they talked about both of these, both Impale and Fend. Fend is basically Javazon's Zeal, but it doesn't work the same as Zeal does. So with Zeal, you get 5 hits, okay? And if you attack when a monster is nearby, you go donk, 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 and you hit 5 monsters, or if there's 1 monster, you hit 1 monster 5 times. With Fend, you hit every single monster around you once, which means if there's 30 monsters around you, you swing 30 times. If there's 2 monsters around you, you swing twice. If there's only 1 monster, you only attack 1 time. And this can be a really big issue, because if you're in the middle of a giant crowd of monsters and you're trying to survive in this giant crowd of monsters, it becomes ridiculously difficult. When you accidentally use Fend in the middle of 30 monsters and you have to attack 30 times. Oh, I appreciate that, Up and Adam. You notice here, I'm trying to attack with Impale, and my character is turning around, and she's getting interrupted in the middle of the Impale attacks. And this is with a spear. Impale kind of reminds me of Charge on Paladin. I don't know if you guys have ever played a Charge Paladin, but Charge is this really big, smashing hit, but it's not exactly a very fast attack, and you kind of have to build your character around this fast attack. Well, thank you, Chrono. Chrono is one of my members on YouTube. The members. So we've got 3 minutes left. Let's go ahead and pull up Mr. Llama's stream. And I'll adjust myself accordingly here in a little bit because we are going to eventually have to move ourselves around to kind of fit in with the developers because we will be... how do I put this? There's going to be multiple people on the screen. We've got Rob Gallerani, who's going to be on this this stream. We also have what is his name again? God, I can't remember his name. Underused or whatever that name is, something like that. He's one of the other developers. They're all going to be on there at the same time, basically. And I'll have to squeeze myself in wherever I can fit. I'm hoping that there's a lot of questions and answers, and I'm going to see if I can take part in the question and answers as well, so I'll be asking some questions if I can. I don't know if people are actually going to be able to see my questions and answers, but I will give it a shot anyway. Let's see if we can pull up chat with this. Pop out chat. So I could bring the chat over to the other screen so I could participate. And if you guys have any specific questions, I'll try and ask them as well. There's no guarantee that my questions will get through, just like there's no guarantee that your questions will get through. But maybe if I'm asking them, maybe they'll be a little bit more visible. Man, people are really spamming this chat. I kind of want to bring the chat up on screen, but... I'm not really sure that seeing a dizzying array of spam going through is really going to be worthwhile. I am wearing shaft stop, Sean Mack. Don't make fun of my shaft stop. Don't be jealous. It's my chainmail. It's ethereal, and I put a Zod rune in it, Sean Mack. When are they going to fix the awful lobby? I'm going to assume the answer to that question, 1, 2, 3, Dune Buggy, is no. What you're talking about there is removing the incentive to play with other players, and they're never going to remove that incentive. That's not something. That's not something they're going to do. Alright, I'm going to buy some bits here so that I can ask questions. Why not? Don't have any other purpose for the bits. Your bit soda will be completed soon. They're late. It's 2:01. They're late. They're late. It's a very important date, and they're late. Yeah, take off these timestamps. Oh, there goes my girlfriend. She's like, hey, what's up? I tell you, you guys should be glad you're here watching it instead of there watching it, because you can't even like make a word in edgewise on chat. Like it's literally just like a massive wall of text just constantly going, and anything that you type in would just get lost in a sea of words. Haha, it's right, Diablo font. Tell us what they're saying. You know what? I'll bring it up on stream for you until he figures this out. It's actually relatively easy for me to do. No. Here it is. Here's the current chat. If you guys want to see it, it's actually really silly. Chat pause due to scroll. It's so hard to see on this background. This background's terrible. Make Oradin great again. He has slow mode on too. This is slow mode. I can't imagine what it would be if it wasn't slow mode. Let me refresh this just to make sure that everything is working. Refreshing. There we go, refreshed.
But that wasn't the kind of the story when we first came out. Like, the last time we were talking, we're like, you know, we had a lot of feedback. We're like, hey, when is there any new stuff? It was like authenticity was our goal, right? We really wanted to target like the experience you remember playing. And in fact, I remember we were watching you play actually, and that morning you had played the original game, and then maybe an hour later you switched over and played D2R, and there were things you did that didn't even miss a beat. And we're like, okay, good. However, now that we've got a lot more, you know, stability and other things like that, I think it's time for ladder, right? And yeah. So with ladder, you guys all know what ladder is. You and your fans all know what ladder is. But really, we think we're ready. It's coming out soon, and it's something we're continuously working on, right? So the big thing I want to kind of talk about before we even get to ladder is PTR. So, right, like everything we're going to go over in this whole roundtable is subject to change, right? And so stuff will get PTR, and it will probably be pointed out to us how it was wrong or right or great or unbalanced or powerful or whatever. Right now, we're thinking 4 months for the duration. Once again, that's what we're thinking. We're leaning towards it pretty heavily. This is kind of after a long history of the different changing ladder seasons over the course of when V2R first came out to, today, right? Like it kind of finally settled into a cadence. But if you look at, D3, that's a different cycle than, 4 months.
Right.
3 months is too quick. Like, yes, there are certain individuals, maybe someone in this room, where 3 months is fine. Tear through it, that's great. But we didn't want to just go 3 months. We didn't want to go 6 months because 6 months just was too long. And 5 is kind of like...
It's just an awkward number, right?
Not when you have a 12-month year, right?
Yeah. I think 4 is great. I've heard from everything I've heard, people love 4 months. That seems to be, I'd say 80% of people are satisfied at 4 months.
I'll take 80. 80 is pretty good.
80 is pretty. I mean, 80 is amazing in this
world. So yeah, once again, like feedback from you, feedback from the community will help us solidify that. But I think we're pretty good on that one. And then what comes with ladder? So you will get to make new ladder characters, right? So there's kind of the ones you expect. There's your hardcore, your non-hardcore, and then there's expansion and non-expansion. So 4. However, there will also be some exclusive ladder content. So there'll be new rune words in there. And that should be pretty much what you've expected from Diablo. However, there's a little bit of a twist here, and that comes in how the shared stash works. Specifically at the end of the season.
Right.
And what happens to those exclusive rune words.
Yeah, those things are moving over, and also we've got our stash tabs that are now we have money those to move over maybe.
Right. Yeah. So this was something we actually talked about for a little while, and one of the options was, we'll just keep giving you more tabs every time the season rolls over. It's like, well,
we like that.
That's not very future-proof. Although there will totally be appreciation for that. The other one is like, just don't roll them over. It'd be like, look, make sure you get stuff out of your shared stash before the season ends or you lose it forever. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of harsh too. And so we kind of fell somewhere in the middle. So what will happen is, let's say you have an item in your shared stash of a, hardcore ladder character.
Right.
End of the season, next day starts, or next ladder starts. You'll come on, that ladder character is now converted to a non-ladder character.
Right.
They will then have a new tab. So you'll see 3 new tabs, but they're going to be withdrawal only.
Okay.
So it's essentially, hey, look, you have a whole season to get stuff out of that shared stash onto your characters. And then, hopefully you've cleared it all out or done something with it before the next rollover of the next ladder comes down the pipe.
Yeah.
And so in this way, you don't have to worry about logging on at the right second, right before to get your stuff onto the characters. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if we did make that rule, people would just make a bunch of dummy characters right before the last day anyway and throw their stuff in. So it's like, no, let's keep it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Nice way to just have the remove only tab there.
And then as for those ladder exclusive rune words, so season, well, I don't know, we call it season 1? Is it season 1 again? The next season comes out, there'll be new rune words in there. Okay. You can make them in, that season. When that season ends, any of those items that have the rune word on them move to non-ladder. Right now, the idea is that now the non-ladder, you can then make those rune words.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Single player will also make those because in the next ladder, there will now be new.
Wow.
Ladder.
So you guys are planning for every ladder to have new rune words. And then
whoa. Every is a strong word that you're committing us to.
But, that's what I heard.
But trickling them out, kind of like trickling them out over, several seasons is kind of the goal.
Uh-huh.
This way, it's like, hey, we got a bunch of rune words planned. You're not going to get them all on this next ladder.
Gotcha.
They'll kind of be a little bit. So it's kind of like
every ladder.
Yeah. So there's a new reason to come back every ladder other than just a new race.
Okay. And then you were saying they'll also roll into single player. Does this happen as soon as that ladder is released or once that ladder ends?
That's a good question. We're still
Perfect. All right.
Once
Okay, cool.
once that letter ends, most likely.
But most likely, that's it'll just
that
be
letter
the
ends.
use that to happen.
Perfect.
I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. So now we kind of get into like the philosophy around like why we made these changes, what made the changes, and things like that. So kind of above all, before we even get to these bullets, like the goal is not, okay, we're going to nerf all these classes that people think are OP.
Right.
Because why would we do that? That's not fun. People are having fun. And the other thing is, when we talk about balance, the word balance even is loaded. Like even you see the little picture, it's 2 scales.
Right.
The idea of, oh, look, I can play however I want, and it will be equal to anyone else playing however they want.
Yeah, that's a terrible picture you chose.
No,
there. I mean,
no, like it's a very good slide. The deck is great. That's not, but you know what I mean? But like we're not here to just be like, you can play however you want and every way wins and it's all perfectly even.
Right.
But really it's more of a like, we really like the player choice and really like that people get to kind of explore and get creative with their builds. But when a particular build is so powerful, it's not really a player choice anymore. You're like, yeah I kind of have to roll this because it's really the only one that's viable kind of
right,
deal.
Right.
And so getting to that first bullet, the big one is like, we just want like more diversity, right? Like more ways to play. So when someone says, oh, what kind of Paladin do you play? You have more than like 2 answers, right? You can have, a decent number of things like that.
Right.
The other thing is the fantasy. And so this is a little bit more of a squishy area, right? So when you're like, oh, wouldn't it be really awesome if I could play an assassin and kill demons? Like, okay, yeah, there's no numbers involved. It's a cool thing. Yeah, assassins, ninjas, martial arts. That would be awesome. And you're like, oh, look, I can do that. I'll play a martial art. And then you play it and you're like, well, this isn't as cool as I was hoping it would be, right? And so that's not really a numbers thing. It's not really a like, okay, here's how everything is. It's really more of like you should be able to play a cool fantasy and have it be viable. I think viable is the big word we're really focusing on here because let's be honest, some of the builds, while cool in like a, fantasy novel or dark sim was really cool, but weren't viable, right?
Yeah. My Inferno Sorceress doesn't really.
Well, the other thing is, and I'm going to have to side with you on this one, is like the new Hydras are so cool looking, and I'm like, can I use that more? And
can I just use it, please? I just want it to be viable in some build somehow.
For the longest time, we didn't have the actual final art. It was just like 3 little cylinders that would come up, and we're like, this is going to be cool one day, and it sure was.
Oh, it's amazing now. Yeah.
The next thing is like casting delays. So really just a lot of the timings, this is like a slippery slope, right? Because if we change timings too much, it starts to not feel the same.
Yeah.
But we also don't play like by putting our AOL disk in the thing and dialing up, right? Like kind of connections work differently. And so
500 free hours. I got plenty of those over here for you if you need them.
I want someone to bring that on Antique Roadshow and just be like, here's my AOL collection. Those would go for auction. Yeah.
Somebody made a whole throne.
It's just kind of a modernization of those types of things, changing things that take a long time, like don't always feel that great and things like that. On tooltips, just the game before didn't always tell you perfectly honest what things were. Also for like a new player, what does this do?
Right.
The tooltip kind of tells me. So those are kind of low-hanging fruit. That was easy for us to do. And then on the underused skills, like we put, especially now that we know how much work goes into build, like Hydra's a great example. It's like, that took someone a lot of work to freaking model a cool fire dragon and get the effects in it. And it's like, no one uses it.
And it's unusable.
And it's not like we're doing that to make people buy our stuff, but like you want stuff to be used in the game, right?
Yeah.
Skipped ahead accidentally. Sorry.
No. I think
the laptop touchpad.
Given in the future.
You got one job, Adam. Push the button at the right time.
There's 2 of you, man. There's 2
of you. Oh, we need a third.
That was the music
Adam.
playing me off that slide.
Yeah.
We'll go next one. So the Amazon. So yeah, when we talk about kind of the fantasy and other things like that, melee comes up a couple times in a couple of these classes. But really, what we're doing here is like the way that certain synergies worked. They were a little bit restrictive, and so kind of removing some of the skill point synergies, lightning, fury skills. I think you saw a bunch of these ones.
Yeah.
But really just like making certain things a little cheaper, kind of around the passive and magic skills. This was something that like they have good variety, but we just saw opportunity for quality of life things in here. So like radius of inner sight, like just go bump that up.
Yeah.
Slow missiles, making them more effective. Really just trying to put more reasons into why you would upgrade slow missile more. And then the disadvantage of like animation lockout for like the dodge and avoid things.
Yes.
Yeah. So overall, like just trying to make them more viable. It's like this was kind of a clunky thing to use. Let's kind of buff it a little bit.
So
and then when we talk,
can you talk a little more on the dodge, avoid, evade here, because that's a huge one, right? I mean, that's always been a massive issue for Amazons. It's like, well, I'd like to get a Valkyrie, but I don't want to get into the dodge, avoid, evade and get all locked up everywhere and stuff,
Yeah, I can give a couple examples here. So let's say, everyone loves Amazon, everyone loves playing Lightning Fury, Javazons. But when you have that, thematical value or that fantasy of a melee Amazon, you think of abilities such as Impale, right? Or Fend. So a couple of things that we did for there was, Impale now slows on every hit. And it also relies, it doesn't rely on attack rating anymore, right? So it's always going to hit. When it comes to animations and stuff, let's use Fend for an example. So Fend is now faster within its animation. So you're not actually sitting there just watching yourself die and getting stuck in that animation.
Horrible.
So it's little tweaks like that. Again, not necessarily trying to change the whole ability or anything, but really just tweaking, some of the things that are frustrating for players over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some other cool things that I can think of for Amazon would be, casting delays, right? Rob touched on casting delays in our last slide.
Yep.
These work fantastic with Valkyries, right? You're not sitting there
6
seconds worth. Yeah, exactly. 6 seconds worth of Valkyries and you can't do anything afterwards, right? It just makes sense to take that out. And when it comes down to casting delays, we're thinking on an individual skill basis, right? It's not this blanket change to casting delays. So Valkyries are huge. And then, when it comes down to the underperforming bow and crossbow skills, we all know that exploding arrow and immolation arrow are massive early game, right?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't need a boost by any means whatsoever. But in the later game, we adjusted that scaling. So it's not necessarily just a DPS, numbers bump. It just really depends on the scaling of how many points you put into that ability. So super cool stuff coming from the Amazon.
Nice. That sounds good. What other, if we can go back real fast to that, are there any other looks into the bow and crossbow skills, such as like early game physical damage, stuff to do with the mana cost of cold skills, even like early game cold arrow, things like that? Or
guided arrow,
right now,
cold arrow, fire arrow,
and stuff?
No, that's a good point. So let me think here for a second. So let's use like cold arrow for an example. Cold arrow, when you slam enough stats into it, I think it's around like 12 or so. The mana cost is massive, right? It's almost unusable at that point. So we did make some changes in the scaling to actually bring down the mana cost while also bringing the damage up. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Awesome.
Sweet. Okay. So with the assassin, this was kind of talked about before, like martial arts should be a fantasy that's totally viable. And so this one, we're kind of making a change with having finishing moves. So the martial arts skill now only consumes 1 of each charge at a time instead of 3 all at once. Hopefully this will be a little bit smoother in combat. so you're kind of like maintaining and spending more charges. We also went up the attack rating for charge up skills and made it easier to gain a charge. And then we did up the damage payoff for some of the lesser used finishing moves too.
Yeah, this is a huge change actually. I love a martial arts assassin. I tried to make this viable. I think there's only one viable martial arts assassin build in the whole game that you could realistically play, right? But
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot with it. There's
right,
some with some PvP stuff you can do,
right.
but you know,
right. This is a huge change that we made.
Yeah.
So instead of going back to like, you know, use Phoenix Strike as an example.
Yeah.
You know, normally before you'd have to charge up the three charges. You know, you hit one ability and a Chaos Ice Bolt comes out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. You're down to one. You know, you're down to zero. Charges,
yeah, you lose
right?
all your charges and
right, exactly. So now there's at least some gameplay. So you charge up to 3, you slam your Chaos Ice Bolt, and now you're right back down to Chain Lightning. And then you can use a Chain Lightning, and then you can charge right back up. It just gives the build so much more playability, so much more gameplay than just a builder and spender.
Right. Okay, I like that a lot. Is there any thought into low-level dueling with this and effects with that? Because I know, like, at least from my personal experience, getting wiped by level 9 assassins murdering me was always rough. And
yeah, that's a good one.
You know, is there going to be something with that? Like, just I don't know, looking at it.
Yeah. This came up. This is really going to come down to our PTR realistically, right? Like we can play it internally all we want and get you know a few eyes on it, but the PTR is going to be massive to see some of these PvP scenarios, especially like you just said, like the lower level PvP scenarios.
Yeah.
Huge amount of feedback there would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that I didn't even mention, and we'll get into it later on, but a lot of these builds will also work with the new rune words, right? And the other changes that are coming, because we all know it's not just your build that makes your character. So you'll see some other synergies with that as well. For Shadow, Shadow pretty much that's pretty widely used and effective. We didn't do a ton of changes there, mostly some quality of life changes with like the tooltips, as well as some buff duration consistency and like casting delay changes. So just a little bit of cleanup, but that was not the area where we're like, man, we got to fix this part of the assassin.
Right.
And then kind of getting to traps, when it came to the trap skills, we saw that Death Sentry was getting a lot of usage, but we felt that kind of more could be done with the rest of the trap skills. So lightning and fire traps, we freed up Synergies reliance on Death Sentry to give more build possibilities elsewhere. Also, fire traps are receiving damage, synergy improvements to make them more effective at higher difficulty. It's kind of another one of those areas where it's like it was good early, but it kind of peters out.
Right. Yeah. You don't really run fire traps past late nightmare. I'd say really.
Nightmare.
And then each of the blade skills are receiving a handful of improvements to make them more viable. Just to make them.
Can you talk more on that? Because I'm a lover of the blade. That makes me sound like some. All right. I love the blade assassin and the blade skills, but they're one of the like most underutilized, just like the weakest, simplest, right? It's like I feel like so many people would love to hear and know how can we make blade skills? How are we making them actually viable? No, I wasn't studying the blade chat. Gosh dang it. That's not what I was going for. As soon as
if you were studying the mastery of the blades,
oh god,
as one may say, we did a couple things. So one we gave more synergies.
Okay.
Right. So the more synergies, the more damage it's going to do. But also, again, going back to that casting delay, right? You throw out a Shadow Master, you throw out a Shadow Warrior. You no longer have to wait your 6 seconds to throw up your Blade Sentinel and rock out some damage.
Okay. Nice.
So I think between those 3 things, synergies, little buff on the damage, and casting delay, we think it'll put it into a good place. But again, feedback.
Yeah.
Tell us we're wrong, but I think it's pretty solid.
Now, I do have a question here for PTR overall, because some of these are things like low-level duel and stuff like that. Some of this might be like endgame builds, all of these things. What are we looking for in terms of the PTR for like leveling all of this? Is it going to be just like a standard, kind of like a standard ladder start and you just go and whatever? Will you be able to just generate items or characters or anything like that? I mean, how is this going to exist so we can get all this testing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if I had my way right now, we'd probably do it in a couple stages, right?
Okay.
So we would have your just level 1 and level up as you go and go through that normal progression experience.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's going to take a long time for people to get to a certain point,
Right.
but that's where we drop in template characters,
Okay.
right? So if we have, let's say, level 99 template characters, you can change around your stats whenever you wish, play around with different scenarios. I think that'd be the best. We're still going through what's going to go into the PTR and when it's going to go in or how it's going to be delivered. But, if we go back to Diablo 3, we have an NPC in there that just provides you with items so you can have, a fun of the mill of what you want to test. So maybe something like that, not promising anything, but,
can that
certainly,
NPC
certainly
be named
talking
Mr.
about
Llama?
Right.
Oh.
Settle down.
Dang it.
I will note, in terms of PTR, we do plan on actually having PTR go a little bit prior to the 2.4 testing stuff as well, just because we are, like we said in earlier blog posts, we do plan on doing some testing on some new database changes and so forth to improve on some of the server stuff. So people should expect to see that prior to this PTR kicking off with all these changes. But yeah, PTR will exist in that form prior to this.
Do we have an exact date set for this yet, or is it still
No?
Not as of yet. Not as of yet. What we really wanted to do is we kind of took this in stages, right? So stage 1 was, put out the game, ensure that it wasn't in a super broken state, get the bugs dealt with, the server stability, because the last thing we would want to do is put out a ladder and everything's borked. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is really getting this PTR. We have a PTR for stability coming up server wise, and then we'll put out the PTR for patch 2.4.
Perfect. Let's move to Barbarian.
All right. Yeah, and I want to be mindful of your time and give you time for questions, so I might go a little faster. But
sorry.
I don't want to rush anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, the barb. Barb is great, but like yodel barbs, we thought they would be cool. So we've definitely kind of done some consistent quality of life there. Warcry, we approved its effectiveness once again at higher levels to promote more of that. We want to give more reason to spend points on some of the lesser things such as Fine Potion and Grim Ward. Just like the things that the Barbarian has, like use them.
Yeah.
We have gone in and improved Leap. So Leap, we made them move a lot faster, so they kind of get less awkward. Leap was one of the things, but when we actually made the 3D version of it and we saw how the Leap was, we're like, this gets really janky. Yeah. So hopefully you can get more use out of Leap. Not that Leap is underused, but it's just could be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Actually, specifically more Leap attack that we want to get more use out of. And its damage improvements. Berserk synergy with Shout is changing to battle orders because the defense loss from the skill kind of contradicts the use of Shout. And then this should allow Berserk to share potential skill point build paths from Concentrate. And then Throw Barbs. Throw Barbs is a fantasy we wanted to make more viable. So we added Pierce chance to Throwing Mastery so that Barbarians have improved viability, when you kind of fight groups of enemies. Because that's how Pierce works.
Yep.
Double Throw now has baseline damage to increase to make it more effective. And also, so it's not just purely relying on synergies for damage. And then lastly, Frenzy is getting a new synergy from the lesser used increased stamina skill to give more reasons to kind of invest points there and add some more build diversity.
I've never put more than 1 point in increased
No,
stamina
no one
in my
else
life.
has either.
I don't
No,
think
no.
there has ever been a person that has put 2 points in that, except by
Call that a
mistake.
1-point wonder.
Increased stamina.
done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there any look at maybe some of the earlier melee game, and I mean melee overall, but barbarian is kind of one of the main guys, right? Because he doesn't have kind of those other skills that he can fall on early on for damage besides melee. Is there any look at that? I mean, once again, when you talk about balance, I'm still on the same page of I don't want everything to be up here, right? Barbarian's kind of a harder playthrough of the game, but just some question on that.
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, like we think between the buff to Warcry, right? So better damage scaling, adding more mechanics to Grimward. It's a little bit of that earlier game. Grimward specifically, right? Slow enemies, decrease enemies' physical resistance, allowing you to do more damage.
That one is definitely interesting.
Yeah, super cool on that one. Yeah, we didn't necessarily want to rework melee completely,
right?
Straight out of the gate, right? In the first set of balance changes.
Yeah.
So something we could probably do in the future, but again, it's really just trying to healing up, the underused skills as of right now, and then based off feedback, if Barbarian's still lacking, in that sort of like level 1 to 20 game, let us know. Yeah.
And then one more question, because everybody is spamming it. Whirlwind. Is there a change or something coming to Whirlwind here? Because it feels like you go back to like 1.0 classic Whirlwind where you hit every single frame and it's just dominant, and then you go to today's Whirlwind and it's kind of super underwhelming until you're super geared at the very end. Is there some balance there at all?
So with Whirlwind is it's a very unique ability in that it doesn't really work how you might expect it to work. In that you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to click here and I'm going to and depending on how far away it is, and so like if you look at a more modern kind of how a Whirlwind plays, there's lots of options out there. There's lots of ways to change Whirlwind, but it starts getting into like fundamentally changing what the move does, and it's not just tweaking numbers. And that's where it's kind of like, okay, right now we don't want to be remaking a move, right? And so that's not to say we can't go tune some numbers, tweak some, other things like that.
Yeah.
But I think it would, I'm not going to say it's a table flip, but it would be a big change to really start changing all of the things that, at least where I would start with Whirlwind for how it works.
Okay. That's fair.
So Druid. So Druid's one that I think you'll definitely feel the change of casting delay, like with the casting delay changes. Druid fire skills are hopefully going to be more widely used. In addition, we're improving the physical damage scaling for certain fire to make it more reliable. Just because physical is a little bit more of a guarantee.
Yeah.
We felt that Arctic Blast was lacking skill, and we wanted to improve that, so we increased its damage scaling. Reduced the synergy requirements to free up some more skill points, and kind of just improve the player controls to allow freer form targeting. In addition, we wanted to complement the Arctic Blast changes with improvements to Twister to add more build possibilities. And then lastly, we're allowing shapeshift forms to cast each of the elemental buffs, so you don't have to like switch, cast, switch, just to keep buffs active.
That's nice.
Yeah, it should change how you play him maybe just a bit. Werewolf skills are receiving attack rating improvements to help Werewolf for melee gameplay. Fire Claws, we wanted to reduce the heavy skill point cost for Synergies to open up more build possibilities. Werebear is also receiving damage improvements to make them just, once again, kind of viable at higher difficulty. So you kind of see a trend. There's a handful of these things that are like, they were good in the early game, and then
they fall off. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we wanted to make less viable summons more viable. So there's lots of Druid summons that just could be better, all around. So in general, all summons will no longer have hidden randomized health values. So that's nice.
I'm not sure a lot of people knew that, but when you summoned one of your summons, it got a random health value within a range, and you had no clue to tell what it had.
You might have that weak one that you kind of pulled from the back of your pocket. And then this way the tooltip can more properly and accurate. So summons, it's just a little bit more consistency. I mean, we all love RNG. That's kind of what the game is based around. But Ravens are getting big changes to help them function more like a spell-like skill for summoning Druids to use. This also includes damage scaling buffs and new synergies from other summons to fuel their damage at higher levels. Wolves are getting improvements to give them more of an identity as damage-dealing summons and more reasons to choose which summon to use. The spirit summons are receiving a physical damage resist change within each difficulty to make them survive more consistently. Spirit Barbs is receiving Thorns damage improvements to improve Thorns. I think we talk about Thorns a little bit more in later slides too. To improve Thorns as a more reliable source of damage. And then lastly, each of the Creeper summons are receiving improvements to give more reason to spend points for each of them and then have them perform better at higher difficulties.
Nice.
Yeah. I think if we look over all the classes that we revisited, I think Druid is probably the one that is the most hype and the most changed.
Yeah.
Because as of right now, you make a Druid, you make a Hurricane Druid, and you call it a day, and you're like, okay, here we go. But with the synergy change, the Arctic Blast, all the synergies going into Twister to make Twister better. You don't have to go all the way down to Hurricane, just to make Arctic Blast better, because that didn't make any sense.
Right.
Fire Claws, I think, is going to be a massive change. Fire Claws is one of the largest abilities that melee druids can use to do some damage, pump some damage, and then if you're
but you had to get fissure,
right, exactly. You had to get so many
points.
different synergies to pump this thing up that it didn't make much sense. And then going back to like the fantasy of stuff and bringing up that thematical, hey, I want to play a summoning druid, right? We just wanted to bring more identity, right, to some of these lesser summons, right? Like dire wolves versus spirit wolves. Better health, better damage scaling. But also, if folks didn't know, pretty sure spirit wolves actually now have a cold damage on their melee instead of physical damage. So little bit of differences there, just to bump the damage up.
Now, is there any chance that we can summon multiple of these at the same time? Yeah. Is this something that maybe coming down the line, if we all complain about it enough or something, can happen?
I mean, once again, PTR is a great place to share that feedback. I mean, it's nothing is off the table, right? It just it will, have significant ramifications kind of across the whole, class, as well as we then scare our engineers to be like, you can summon all your animals all at once. They're just models and polys. Sure.
Yeah, the Necro already does it,
Yeah, I know. Because skeletons are known for the amount of polys they take up.
Speaking of skeletons.
Nice transition. Job, Adam.
Yeah, I know. Look at that. You see, it's like pro segue there.
Matthew.
Speaking of skeletons, so the Necromancer. Necromancers were pretty awesome. We felt that a lot of the fantasies were being delivered on, but we did see opportunity to improve some lesser used summons. So skeletal mages are getting big damage scaling. So their elemental damage is more in line with kind of with each other. This means that cold damage is more effective, but still weaker than fire damage because of its utility. And poison damage is more reliable with a fixed duration and better damage scaling to compensate. Blood Golem and Fire Golem are getting general improvements to kind of improve their effectiveness. And then for the Iron Golem, we're changing the Thorns aura to deal more reliable damage to improve its effectiveness in higher difficulties. For the bone skill improvements, once again, at high levels, bone skills are generally well performed, but we saw an opportunity to improve synergy bonuses to better scale late game and make their heavy skill points just more valuable.
PvP bone necro going to be strong. That'll be something to test in PTR, everybody.
Definitely.
Additionally, bone armor damage is going to be absorbed scaling. Bone armor's damage absorbed scaling is improved to make it more rewarding to spend points on the skill itself instead of having to rely too much on all the synergies. And then lastly, for the weakened skill, we added new damage reduction scaling to give more reason to spend additional points on the skill and give it a more powerful kind of reason of being there.
And is this something, I mean, I have a few questions here, but one, for the curses, is this something that you're looking to maybe slowly move into other curses as well? Just kind of the idea of, having some point.
Yeah. There's some head shaking here going like this. Yeah. Necromancer is the king of the 1-point wonder, right? Every curse is a 1-point wonder.
Yep.
So we'll start with weaken, and go from there. So.
Okay, perfect. In terms of summoning and summon necros, I know one issue that they can have is whenever they join a new game, they're completely void of summons. And if you have Act 5, you can go to, Pindle and go summon those corpses. Otherwise, you kind of don't have any corpses to work off of. Is there any idea of bringing corpses into the game in some capacity? Maybe when you summon a bone wall and it drops, you have all the bones, you could summon off that or something? I don't know.
Yeah, not as of right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
not looking to like super change the gameplay. Yeah. That's the main point here, right?
I know that's getting.
Yeah, Diablo 2 is fantastic for what it is, right? Yeah. And we don't. The more we change these little tiny things, it starts to become something a little different. Even though it would be maybe a quality of life for necromancers, there is some elegance to going out and slaying Pindle.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, I can see that being a little much there in terms of game changing.
It's also like, maybe we slowly cook the frog, if you know the analogy. Like, we don't want to do all of these changes because it starts to feel like not Diablo. So summoning quality of life are totally not off the table, but just kind of taking it in stages.
Yeah. No, I'm totally good with that.
All right, Pally. So we did want to improve some of the lesser skills here. Just for more viable build options. Holy Bolt will now pierce to increase its combat use cases, and will have less skill point synergy investment to open more possibilities to spend points elsewhere. Fist of the Heavens is also getting the same Holy Bolt pierce changes and will now have less casting delay. So another thing casting delay is affecting. And improve controls to help make it more interesting and effective level 30 skill to use. I mean, it's level 30 skill. It should be a little bit more OP.
Yeah.
Better scaling for the offensive auras for higher difficulties. So we want to improve the AoE damage of offensive auras since they are each kind of a good source for the Paladin to handle groups of monsters. By increasing damage based on distance to the caster, each OAL damage will have increased effectiveness while maintaining the same cadence and visual effect on screen.
Wow.
We also saw that Holy Fire could scale better at higher skill levels to feel more in line with fire elemental damage effectiveness kind of compared to the other elements.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then there's a couple of things with Pally. I mean, Pally was not one of those, we need to go in there and make things more viable.
Right. Any looks at changing conversion?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. But we did bump some tooltips for him.
We did. Yeah, there's a couple things with Paladin, right? Like Paladin comes down to fantasy first off,
right?
And that's our main goal for this kind of balance patch. So, Fist of the Heavens, Holy Bolt, giving it the synergy bump, giving it the casting delay changes, and having the pierce. Those three changes should bump it up pretty good. And then, like Rob, go on.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, Paladin's in a pretty good spot overall, right? You know, you can run your Hammerden, your Smiter, your Foden, your Tesladin, your Zealot. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, a lot of things that work. So, yeah, he's in a pretty solid spot. I think that this makes sense to me, and I think I think it's actually really cool the scaling of the offensive auras as you like get closer to monsters and stuff. So then
it makes you kind of get in there and
exactly. Now you really get in there and kind of add some damage up that way. Just nice.
The Paladin actually has a good example of sort of our tooltip changes, because as of right now, the tooltips don't actually provide you a lot of information, right? So let's use for an example, just to give a specific one here. You know, if a player puts a point into fire resistance, let's say, you know, and if you have that ability off, you get, I think it's 0.5 of your max fire resistance with that skill off.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability turned on, you gain one pretty much.
Yeah.
So the tooltip now states that instead of it being this hidden value that you just don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like across the board. You know, barbarian shouts will tell you the duration of the shout now.
Nice.
Stuff like that. Just adds a little bit of stuff so players aren't sitting there confused about like how long does this last?
Right. Oh, that's super nice. Because I mean, in so many of my guides with like extra points, it's like, oh, dump them into resist lightning, and people are like, why? Why?
Right. What
this
does
is
this
a
do?
waste of points, and it's like, there's a passive where you get the plus point.
Yeah.
But,
it's this tribal knowledge that is actually cool to have, that tribal knowledge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, as a whole, right, as the community as a whole, it's kind of nice to know these little details.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Last but not least, we have the sorceress. Overall, felt she's in a pretty good spot. With the cold armor, we saw an opportunity to further diversify them by giving the lesser used ones more distinctive advantages. After these changes, chilling armor will have the greatest defense bonus and damage potential while still only triggering on ranged attacks. And Frost Nova is receiving damage scaling improvements for higher skill levels to give it kind of more power where it was kind of lacking. Once again, later game stuff.
Yeah.
Certain lightning and fire skills are underused. We saw an opportunity to add new synergies for lesser used lightning skills, especially since they look so cool now, to create new possibilities for spending skill points and just keep improving those things. We wanted to kind of improve the lesser file skills and give more reasons to use them. Inferno is receiving player control improvements with freeform casting like Arctic Blast and better damage scaling. Blaze is often ignored, so we wanted to free up synergy requirements and provide more utility and power with damage increases and a new run walk speed buff for extra utility.
I like that.
And lastly, Hydra, as we've kind of talked about. We wanted to improve the gameplay of summoning Hydras to make it easier to use the skill in combat situations. So the removal of the casting delay and the new limitation on max Hydras will kind of match the maximum Hydra count achievable from before the changes. But now players will have a much easier time to summon just because the casting delay is different.
I mean, that's actually probably a huge benefit, because I mean, if you kind of think of the Hydra, it's like a trap sin, right? It's the same idea. You set your traps down, but the Hydra is having that like 2 or 3 second, whatever it was, casting delay. You know, it took you, by the time you got the 6th Hydra up, the first one was disappearing, and you were like,
yeah, it was brutal.
Oh god, it just takes forever. So that's actually, having that cast delay drop down there is actually massive, because then if you can fire up 6 of those real fast, maybe you have something there. Can you talk a little bit about the lightning skills? I mean, the ones that I can think of are Nova and Thunderstorm that don't get used much. So
I remember when the team brought this one to me, and my jaw just dropped, because I remember back in the day decimating cows with Nova with Wizard's Pike, and it just felt so good.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody really does it anymore.
No.
But now you will be able to.
Yeah.
This one's actually huge. Like we touched a bit on scaling a Frost Nova, right? So like, let's say you're a beginning sorceress. We all know usually 1 point in Frost Nova.
Yep.
First gather up the mobs and then slay them down with Nova.
Right.
So we mucked around a little bit with the scaling to make Frost Nova better, but still not as amazing as Nova, right?
Nice.
So between Nova scaling and between static field synergy with Nova,
we also did Nova and Thunderstorm synergy too.
Yep. In
So,
Thunderstorm
wait,
as well.
Thunderstorm is also a synergy for Nova? Wow. Okay, all right. So now, what's happening with Thunderstorm then? If there's any change there as well.
Waiting for my man in the van to tell me. You're going deep. Special props, by the way, to Andre. He did a ton of this work. He is absolutely epic.
Good job, Andre.
Give him props.
All right, yeah,
because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. Thunderstorm.
You'll find out on PTR.
Find out on PTR.
Solid, Adam. Solid.
There you go. Perfect. Well, that's awesome.
I'm gonna keep us moving along so we can make sure we have enough time for questions. So.
Yeah.
So mercenaries, we realized that we were wasting a lot of art by providing any mercenary other than Act 2, so we just removed them all, and now all mercenaries. No, so one of the big things with the mercs is we have made skill changes and improvements, but also a lot of the new rune words are kind of made kind of thinking that they would go really well with certain mercenaries.
Interesting.
So we've seen a lot of feedback from the community around mercenaries and just kind of making improvements to them in a bunch of different ways. Like I said, everyone likes the desert mercenary. We didn't nerf the desert mercenary, but we did want to give more reason to play the other mercenaries. So we're kind of looking to improve them. So regarding the Act 1, the archer, they are getting new flavored ranged skills. So and that will scale when they level. So that should improve their AoE damage effectiveness, essentially make them just a more effective range damage. I think there might have been a fire and a lightning, but
fire and cold arrow.
Fire and cold, yeah.
Yeah.
Desert mercenary, yes, desert mercenary is very popular, but we did add some quality of life there. So allow you to hire all 6 different aura types on nightmare and hell difficulties.
Wow.
So as we continue to kind of make general improvements to thorns, we also wanted to improve the level scaling to make the aura mercenary type more kind of meaningful.
Oh, can we talk about thorns real fast? I don't think we talked about it during Paladin.
Yeah, so Cedar, you have a better way of explaining this, but like pretty much the way that we or does he
that face says maybe not.
the way that Thorns works has been changed a little bit across the board, and I want to make sure that I get this right. So we'll put a pin in it, and I'll come right back.
Currently is percent based.
It's currently percent based as of right now. We're testing. We're testing like a flat damage base, right?
Okay.
Which is one of those things where Thorns is a little funky. Percentage base is pretty good, but it can also be extremely overpowered. Flat base might honestly it might just come off flat. So it's test Thorns and PTR. This is definitely going to come down to feedback, but it's something we're looking to investigate at least.
Yeah, we also want Thorn to deal damage on the attacker's attack attempts and not responsive to getting hit and then dealing a percentage back.
Whoa, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, please try that out. Tell us what you guys think.
That's bad.
Regarding Act 3, we saw that they've kind of been underperforming at higher difficulties, so we improved their core stats to make them more in line with other mercenaries while kind of having a distinctive advantage with the resistance values. So for skills, we wanted to embrace kind of their elemental fantasies, so we gave some new flavorful utility skills to kind of further incentivize why you'd want to use those.
Is there anything you want to share now, or is this come PTR?
We'll come PTR.
Okay.
I can share something about Act 5 at least, if you want.
Okay, yeah. Get to the Act 5 one.
I'll drip in a little bit of mercenary stuff. Rob's going to slap me after this one for dropping it. But we all know that you use in Act 2, right? Vicky hat, right? You pull up Vicky hat or Wahid from Act 2, and
Wahid!
right? And you slap on your insight and
Yep.
graduate to infinity and so on and so forth.
Call it a day.
But and call it a day, right? But realistically, Paige is in the background from Act 1. She's like, "Yo, what's up?
Diana's
Like, can you
sitting
use
there.
me?"
Hey.
Right, exactly. Woolgar's like, hello, Act 5. I'm right here. So there's some actually cool things. Like, I'm pumped about let's go to Act 5, so Barbarian.
Yeah.
We now provide them with Warcry,
Ooh.
right, which is super dope.
Ooh.
So lowers nearby opponents' defense,
Yep.
right, and damage.
And damage.
So, exactly. So given these little things, in addition to the rune words that we're adding, should open up the viability, not necessarily taking away Wahid and putting him in the inn,
Yeah.
but also, allowing other folks to come in and be
Wow.
badass.
Wow.
Yeah.
And because of the battle cry, like
It's battle cry, not war
Yeah,
cry.
battle
so-
cry is what he
yeah.
meant. Sorry. Yeah.
Battle
Um,
cry. I'm sorry.
And since
I'm
they all sound the
sorry.
same, I'm gonna give a quick note just to everybody. Battle cry is the skill for the barbarian, not battle command, which gives +1 to skills, not war
Right.
cry, which does the damage and the stun. Battle cry is the one right above war cry, which lowers damage and defense of mobs, and it puts like a little curse above their head essentially.
there are
So,
many. There's lots of crying over.
There's lots
battle.
of crying and battling for the barbarian.
But we did bump the life and defense because we assume it's going to be out in there in the monsters,
Yeah.
yelling at them.
Yeah.
So maybe it should live a little longer.
That'd be nice. That's great. I mean, that seems fantastic. Because, yeah, I mean, right now you got about one mercenary. Well, two. You could have Might or Holy Freeze. And then you got about 3 weapons you put on him and call it a day. That's all you do. And
Yep.
your rare occasion you might have a faith on an Act 1 merc. But other than that, no. So this sounds awesome. Definitely stuff to look forward to in PTR.
Cool. All righty, rune words. So yeah, I think I already touched a bunch about this in the beginning, and we don't want to give really too much away. It's kind of the fun secret of these. But 2.4, there'll be new cube recipes, set item changes, and rune words. The new rune words are going to be added to kind of complement a lot of the changes you've already seen. So the idea here is that, hey, because now your mercenary works this way, or because now your fire druid that works this way, like maybe try this new rune word on your item. And really just kind of some other reasons to use underused runes as well. Once again, like runes was another one of the things where there were some neat rune words early game, but kind of like, okay, I have a top tier character with top tier gear. I kind of want a really awesome rune word on this.
Yeah.
There wasn't as many. So yeah, I guess. Oh, we can say this. Today,
Is there any? Yeah. Do we have
there
any?
is.
runes?
Yeah, so we're happy to share that rune words Plague and Pattern will be introduced with the new ladder launch.
Wow. So Plague and Pattern actually existed in the game and have existed always in the files and just never actually made their way in there. So will they be the same? Will they be different? Is there anything to share on that? Is there
A little bit of slight tweaks to them.
little tweaks? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of tweaks, but yeah, should be coming back in action. Plus,
Wow.
many more rune words, which is nice.
Yeah, those are not the only two new, those are not the only new rune words. There are other new rune words. We're just not sharing them all today.
Yeah. When it comes down to rune words, right? We're not bringing out new runes, right? So it's going to be the same staple of runes that are there currently. But there's, we've identified this area where in the early game there's a good amount of rune words that you can utilize, like stealth. And then once you get really late game, there's a lot of rune words that you can utilize, call to arms, so on and so forth.
Yep.
But in that middle gap for those players, maybe around levels like, I don't know, 40 to 60 or so, there's just this missing gap of rune words. So trying to create rune words that complement a general spread of all classes and levels. So also utilizing unused runes Some may say like a cham rune, so something like that.
Like a Chamrune. Wow.
All I'm saying is,
Wow.
cham is up there with a mal and a nist, and it's only used for what, maybe 3 rune words, I think.
It is
and
used for 3. Zod
nobody
is used for
uses
1. Sham is used for 3. And
Right.
do you,
So
do you
maybe-
really make any of them? No, not much.
Yeah, maybe Zod will come back and make a statement, and
Ooh.
maybe Cham will make a statement.
Wow. Maybe some love for goal as well. I see it here on this
Maybe.
slide. Is there any hint? Is this supposed to be some puzzle that we're supposed to
Just read
break
into it.
down and read it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
putting, okay, so L at the T.
It's already been screenshotted like several times. Alrighty. So set items. So set items are going to be changing a little bit. Really, we want to update kind of the underperforming set items to have a little bit more reason to pursue them.
Nice.
It's just kind of like your gamer brain. Like you have one, you want to go get the other, and it's not always easy to get the other. And you finally get them, you're like, I got the whole set. Look, I'll put them together, and
Yeah.
I could have just equipped these
Yeah,
other
I
things.
did
with
nothing.
that.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
And so we've made improvements to set items that are underused by players. For example, we're improving Naja's Ancient Visage and Kathos' Children and other things. But the hope is that there's reason to equip multiple set pieces, give them new sets. Because D2 is so cool in that there's no such thing as a soulbound. Like you can literally pass down items to your other things. It's cool to have a set, and it should once again be a little bit more viable.
You should be excited when you find multiple pieces of berserkers or something instead
Exactly.
of just like, all right,
Right.
don't even pick it up.
Right. You have the set, you have sets like Cow King's Leather, which is like, okay, that's a pretty decent set. You don't need to change anything crazy with that.
Yeah.
But then you find something like a Berserkers and you're just like, hey, Akara, let's throw this in the trash right
Right.
now. It's not usable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so don't necessarily think of this as like Diablo 3 sets, right? So nothing's like going to be absolutely, 6,000%
So we're
damage
not
when
getting,
you-
120,000%
Right, exactly.
damage increase.
It's nothing
Okay.
like that. So to put the mind at ease, it's it's really just bringing up those underutilized sets just to make them viable. That's it.
Okay, nice.
Alrighty. So in addition to all of the rune words and sets and characters and
Uh-oh.
everything,
Uh-oh, guys.
so we are doing some zone changes. So regarding monster level, we've updated some areas. We felt that there were certain optional areas, optional in D2 that kind of get ignored on higher difficulties. Once again, certain things that should be cool and viable weren't. So we decided to increase their monster levels to just give you more reason to go in there. Risk, reward, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Hopefully that generates more reasons to kind of want to kill monsters there and get their loot. So for example, the Arachnid Lair and Rune Temple, those two zones are going to now have level 85 monsters.
Nice. So just a lot more areas to go farm, which is always great because sometimes you're like, all right, I'm just stuck in like a couple. I have like 2 zones to farm really with this element and stuff. So
If you're sick of the pit and you're sick of the ancient tunnels, some nice new scenery
Try
will
out
be
the Arachnid
pretty.
Lair tonight.
Yeah, try out the Arachnid Lair and some other zones as well.
nice.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like we're just showcasing 2 zones here that are receiving these changes. There are other zones. I know people in chat are probably like, why is this so focused on Act 3 and Act 3 and Act 3?
Yeah.
But there are going to be other places. as
Okay.
well.
There are.
Yeah, and we're not trying to like stop people from rushing the game. We know that that's like a huge deal. It's really more of just like kind of give you more incentive to experience more of the content.
I mean, the second change, everybody's going to get mad and yell because you're taking away the easy way through it. Now it's like, oh, I can't just skip the entirety of Act 3 and go Travancore Durance and be done. At the same time, I like it. I personally like it because you know what? It is the game. You do need to go through and explore and get the spider and get the brain, heart, and the eye, and it's a whole thing. And it's actually a really great act. People are going to flame me for saying that. It's actually a really great act once you learn the maps of Act 3 and how the jungles work, which I have videos on my YouTube. So there you go. Quick plug. But once you learn how Act 3 works, it's actually a lot better of an act, and you don't feel as lost just kind of mindlessly roaming around it. And so I think having, even for rushers, right, it's like a little bit of a skill to be able to run around and be able to go through. I'm fine with it. It's the game. The game was intended for you to play through Act 3.
I also I like that one of the big changes, because we like to see people be like, don't make the game easier. It's like, well, okay, we changed it. It's a little harder now.
And then they get mad.
There we go.
Yeah, everybody in chat, you should have seen them 10 minutes ago. They're like, oh, they're making the game easier. Whine, whine. And now they're like, oh, they're making the game harder. Whine, whine. What do you want, chat?
We'll find the fine line somewhere.
Malding.
Maybe. Yeah. I think Act 3 just has this huge story moment, right? And everyone skips over it. It's slamming, Kalim's flail, smashing the orb. Like that's a big story moment. Yeah. And for folks to jump in, get a rush, not really see that.
Ignore all of it.
we just want people to experience it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with that being said, just totally open up for questions, and just everything we showed, please give us feedback. It's on the PTR. That's hopefully we've been doing a really good job where every time something's coming up, we've been super transparent. So let us know what's right, what's wrong, what's too hard, what's too easy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've got a slew of questions if you are ready. I've got some I've pulled myself, many I've pulled from the community. We can try and rapid fire through some, whatever you want to do.
Yep. Rapid fire would be goal.
Okay.
I know we ate up a lot of time, so
yeah. Sorry. Number 1, Diablo clone. Number 1 asked question.
Yeah, it's a good one just to get out of the way now.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah. If we're all playing Diablo 2 Resurrected right now, we know that declone is one of those things that is just a real pain to deal with, and you have to go through a massive amount of loops and almost a secret society just to actually see a declone itself. So this is something that we are actively looking at to redesign in such a way that it'll bring it to the larger audience in an easier way.
Awesome. Love it. That's great. Number 2, more character slots, especially with ladder coming. I'm already at 20 slots, and we have hardcore, softcore, hardcore ladder, and softcore ladder.
No plans right now, but we'll keep listening. Really, that comes down to us figuring out, do we have space for all of these things? And yes, there's always more space.
I will buy the space,
but it's not.
I need the slots.
It's not just like we wave a hand. It's like, oh, it'll just work. And so yeah.
It's one of those things when we transition from legacy to the new BattleNet system. Before, you can make endless amount of accounts, right? So realistically, the 8 players that you can make before or whatnot,
right?
It can be unlimited, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's a little bit different database wise and stuff like that. But I think we increased it to what? Is it 18 as of right now?
20.
Somewhere 20 at 20. Okay, so 20. We can feedback wise, we can definitely investigate further.
Okay. You talked about more rune words in future ladders. Are you also trying to look at more 2.4 like patches in these future ladders as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, I'm gonna go back to what I said before, going in stages, right? Stage 1, get the game out, make it as good as possible to set the stage for ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Stage 2 is PTR. I want to get the point across that this game hasn't changed since 1.13c, I believe, right? 11 years.
11 years.
This is a massive amount of changes going in. So what we want to do is get this right? Get this first one correct. Listen to all the feedback that we've received, make the correct changes that make sense for the game, and then think about what's next. So as of right now, That's our stance.
Okay. What change are you most excited to see?
I mean, I think the biggest change is that there's change. Like, and I know that that's kind of a canned answer, but like,
It's very canned.
It sounds canned, but I literally just pulled it out of my butt.
You made my question seem more canned. We didn't set this up.
Sorry.
You like sunny days? I like blue skies.
I like blue skies.
I mean, like, so to go in with something that's become so established that we have such an established meta going on, and to essentially take the anthill and shake it up and watch the community rebuild, like that right there is the thing I'm most excited about. And these, while granted we're not like completely revamping things, but there is a healthy amount of changes where it should have significant ripples with what the meta is. And so just seeing how people break it, that's always going to happen. But like, that's such a cool moment, especially with such a like foundational game in action RPGs, right? Like, it's kind of unheard of. It's like, oh yeah, this game is 20 years old. We just updated it. There's now new meta. Like, so super exciting.
From my standpoint, it's just martial arts assassin. I think I'm super hyped for, and then bigger change like casting delays. I think casting delays are going to be
that'll be very massive for it.
Massive hit.
Rune words.
There you go.
Those are the biggest changes. These people haven't seen them all yet, and I think they're gonna freak out.
Is that Adam number 1 talking or Adam 2 talking?
That's Adam number 1.
Oh, that's
number
Adam
1 forever. And Druid changes. Come on, I don't have to make a tornado Druid like to do high level stuff.
Even the little thing of like, I don't have to shape shift back and forth makes me smile.
Can I teleport while I'm in shapeshift form? Is this?
That's actually a good question.
That is a good question.
Okay.
Well, I'll let people know.
Perfect. Thank you. Are you planning on any new bosses or endgame content?
Not at this time, but man, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
That'd be cool, wouldn't it? All right. Any plans to buff medium heavy armors, two-handed weapons, staves, kind of just those items that don't really get as much love and stuff?
Yeah, this is all going to come down to feedback. Like, we know that two-handed staffs and swords don't provide the same benefits as the one-handers normally. So, more can be done in the future. Definitely feedback-wise. Yeah, if there's specifics that folks are like, hey, like this would be epic on this two-hander, that'd be cool to know instead of just the blanket statement. Like, specifics would be cool.
Okay. More stash tabs?
Stash tabs are like
common question.
Again, like I guess it's like the characters, the space.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a game about collecting.
It's like the goldfish will always grow to the size of the bowl you put it in, But I mean, so stash tabs are different than inventory space. Inventory space is very, very pivotal to how the whole loop of the game works. But the stash tab, that's something that I think we'll always have these discussions hey, stash tabs, like. But not today.
Okay, not today. Okay.
Well, you'll get
today at least.
You'll get 3 temporary stash tabs at the end of ladder that you can't put anything in.
Yeah, that's fun, I guess.
There's conversations internally, like how Diablo 3 does it. When you complete your seasonal journey, you unlock a stash tab, right? Like that's a really cool thing, and that's interesting to us. But as of right now, we're not doing anything with it. But again, there's avenues to take in the future.
Okay. Any chance for ignore list that can be shareable? So we can share a bot ignore list.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing back in the day with old school legacy D2. I guess what we can say in this one is we are putting a great amount of effort into handling spam bots or spam in general, not necessarily just bots. So not a list that can be shared out or anything like that, but I mean, just know that we're working towards it very greatly.
Perfect. I'm asking for the Band-Aid, and you're going to the source.
Right.
Probably better.
Right. The source is what I'd like to handle rather than.
Yeah. If you want to do that, I'm good with that as well.
Yeah. We're working on it.
Will these changes affect classic mode as well?
So some of them.
Okay.
And so the rebalancing of certain abilities on the assassin won't.
Yeah.
But for example, but yeah, if we're changing how the sorceress works, that's all sorceresses in D2R.
Okay.
At least in things that do exist.
Yep. Okay. Any plans for unique items, especially some of the rare ones like Tyrael's Might or Mang Song's Lesson?
New items is something that's not off the table, but not planned right now.
And nothing for editing some of those underused uniques that exist like those? No? Okay.
Yeah, nothing as of right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that stuff can happen. It's just like we now have more ways to look and listen to the community and see what's working, what's not. So if it's pretty clear, hey, this is a really cool item that no one uses.
Yeah, I just want Tyrael's Might to actually be usable. It's just too cool, Any possibilities of changes to crafting?
I mean, it's a tricky question. Yes, there's always possibilities. Nothing planned right now.
Nothing planned. That's fine.
But
yeah. Okay.
But there are new Herodric Cube recipes.
Care to explain?
Yeah, actually, trying to remember exactly how to word it. It's an ability that you could do with certain items, but now you can do with lower level items. I'm trying to remember. Look it up.
Upgrading.
Yes.
Okay,
We're
so
allowing upgrade tiers and set.
Yeah, you can end up upgrading tiers of set items with the new cube recipes.
So those are the cube recipes that we have right now. Okay, my chat won't stop going on about it. So stacking of runes or currencies and loot filters. Those are the two questions.
Okay, so we can talk about two of these. The stacking of gems or rune words or other things can I stack them in my inventory? No, we probably won't ever allow that. Can you stack them in a special stash tab? Like this is my rune word stash tab, right? Yeah. Those are conversations that do happen, but it's also happening at the same time when it's like, will there be more stash tabs? And so that, I think we would probably raise those questions up because obviously the goal is you only have so much space and you have so much stuff. Right. If we let that stuff stack, well, maybe we don't need to give you another stash tab because you now have stacking. It's in that conversation. We don't have anything right now.
Honestly, if you gave a currency tab, I think everybody would stop complaining about stash tabs.
Most likely.
They'd be done. They'd be like, we're done. We're good. Just that's my thoughts.
And then you had another big question,
loot filters.
That was the loot filter. Yeah. So loot filters actually has been talked about for a very, very long time. And one of the tricks is that if we do loot filters, if we did pretty much the lowest of the low, just don't show me anything below this level. There are, even at a high end play, there are times where you want to see low end stuff.
Right.
And the problem was we're okay, if we're going to do loot filtering, we probably want to do it better than just only show me, this rarity.
Yeah, and I mean, I think having some of the mods have where you can literally write kind of your own script of how it shows it.
Right.
And we agree that that's the right way to do loot filtering, but that puts a much bigger body of work on doing it. And so it's kind of one of those, if we're going to do it, we want to do it right. And so right now that's not on the table today. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you guys keep yelling about it.
Yeah, they just yell a lot. Yeah. So there you go, chat. If you just keep yelling about it, they'll eventually consider it.
At Mr. Llama SC.
Well, hold on. Wait. At Adam Fletcher. Test Radar. That's where we always yell.
I do want to do just a quick time check. We have a couple more minutes with a couple more questions, then we can do our outros. I do want to address one question at the end though, which I'll bring up at the end. But if you have any other questions.
PvP thoughts in the balancing and everything that you're doing? Any considerations or thoughts there, and anything you want to talk about that scene?
We knew that we knew that when we changed balance, like the PvP scene could be shaken up a lot with casting delays. Necromancer, bone spears, like that's going to be just awesome. There's going to be differences here and there, but it's kind of nice that there's differences, right, to that PvP scene. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's really just going to come down to that PTR. If there's something that is so overly egregious and just absolutely demolishing because of X thing, we would love to hear about it at any level, low level, high level, whatever it may be. But we did take into consideration PvP at least. Not always the most balanced thing in Diablo 2, as we all know, but definitely on top of our mind.
Fair. Any bugs that you guys are currently looking at really fixing or changing up next on the list, sort of things?
There's a ton of bugs. We always
such as like mana burn,
I was just gonna say,
or something,
I think, gameplay bugs is what you're asking.
Gameplay bugs
specifically. Yeah. I think we have a list. I think we have a good amount of lists from community wise of gameplay bugs. I don't know if I have anything specific right now though.
The other thing I wanted to at least quickly address was, like, I know that since the game is launched, we've had patches pretty frequently with D2R, really to kind of like tackle some of the big things that we know are going to cause, whether it's massive gameplay issues like traps following you around.
I love that.
That was so fun. I loved it.
And other types of bugs that have come up and so forth. I will say that the patch cadence will probably start to slow down, only because as we start to tackle some of these more smaller things and that have come up, we can now really focus in on some of the bigger changes and so forth, like something like patch 2.4 and whatnot. So I would expect cadence to slow down, but I would expect these next patches and so forth to be more significant in terms of what they actually do change and offer from the team itself.
Okay. Load screens. We had them, and then they kind of reverted back a little bit. Is that something you guys can talk on about right now?
So the loading is kind of it's like bugs, right? It's always something we're trying to work on. Right. We're always trying to kind of improve. The golden standard is like, it would be awesome if no player ever saw any load screen.
Right.
But there is accounting for many different, pieces of hardware. There's what your ping is. There's how there's a lot of variables that come into play. So with loading screens, it's one of those things where if you're loading for a very, very short period of time, sometimes it's not worth putting up the loading screen.
Right.
Because it actually looks like a bug where it
flashes real fast.
And so you kind of have this balance of, sometimes I never see a loading screen, sometimes, and when you see it, then you see it. Like, so I expect that will be something that kind of comes and goes, and hopefully you'll just continue to see a little less of it. But it's just always a constant effort.
Mm-hmm. Is there, I guess, more specific with it, is there anything with the can't move, can't die during the load screen that'll be coming back? Because that was like the main thing that I had seen, like in alpha.
I remember that in alpha. Yeah, I remember testing in alpha before we even put the game out, actually, to alpha, and I did a Duriel, and I actually killed Duriel in a loading screen, which was hilarious. Wait, what? After many times of Duriel
you in the loading screen,
slaying me in a loading screen. So that's one thing we definitely want to avoid, having the availability to have any gameplay, especially for hardcore players. And stuff like that. That's huge. Definitely something we're trying to avoid at all costs.
I mean, the reason why it's a tricky problem to fix is that it is a living game. It's live, right? So we can't, unless you're playing, single player, we can't pause the game ever. And so do you just kind of hold the character in some type of wormhole, right, until things are loaded? Like, it becomes trickier. So we did do baby steps towards that, where you will stay in town, which we perceive as usually the safer destination,
You should.
until the load, right? So if you have a town portal up, you're in town, you click the town portal, it actually will keep you in the town as long as it possibly can until things have loaded, and then it will move you to the town portal.
Okay.
However, the opposite is true. If you're taking a town portal to escape, it will then instantly move you to the town, because it doesn't really matter if you don't see the town when you load in.
Right.
But there's a lot of other edge cases, right? There's like, oh, I took a waypoint to another waypoint.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, both waypoints could totally be dangerous, especially if your friends are waiting on the other end of the waypoint and they've pulled all these monsters to it. Like,
right.
And so that's why it's like, okay, we can improve the bulk things. But yes, like Duriel was kind of our like, okay, we got to fix this situation.
That's a good case of it, because it's like, I want to get in there maybe to get away from the area prior, but then if I'm in that area, then Duriel just comes over and kills me. Then, yeah. Okay.
Last question.
Last questions. Players.
Last question. Don't try plural.
Dang it. And anything with like Players X online, things like that. Create a game with a certain player count, kind of just setting, just like a private,
No, try to keep that to single player.
Okay.
Yeah, Players 8, not for BattleNet as of right now, and we're not planning on currently doing anything with that.
Okay.
We don't want to add reasons to BattleNet to not play with people, right? It's
Fair.
Diablo has this massive, amazing community, and we don't want to give any reasons to kind of push away.
Perhaps you've met them.
Yeah, well, I'm on the forums, trust me, I know. On both Diablos. So it really just comes down to community on this one.
Okay.
Right? Bring people together, not push them away.
And before we do outros really quickly, because I know that was the last question, I see a bunch of people talking about console. It's probably my most number one asked question on my social media feeds, on forums, to the other community managers like Rich and Tom. I can tell you guys, we do hear you guys. We don't have anything to share right now, but when we do, I promise you that will be the happiest day of my life. but
you don't want to hear any more about consoles.
But I promise you, we do hear you guys. Once we have something to share, if we have anything to share, we will be the first to scream it from the mountains. I promise. So,
Definitely.
But yeah,
definitely.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for tuning in as well. Really appreciate it. Again, once 2.4 goes live, there will be a PTR for it. So we hope to see everyone's feedback. And we'll be most definitely checking the forums, Reddit, different people's streams, YouTube comments, social media, etc. So make sure to don't follow Mr. Lamac.
Wow!
Whoa.
Wow!
Holy smokes!
Mods, please ban Pez Radar.
Goodness. Yeah, put him on timeout.
Give him a 10-minute at least.
Give him a 10 minutes.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Cool. And Rob, Matt, I don't know if you have any final comments.
From my standpoint, if I thought years and years ago when I started first playing Diablo 2 that I'd be talking 20 years later, and especially 11 years of not having any changes, having this amount come into the game and working with such passionate people and working with such passionate community is huge to the team. It's massive. We look over an abundance of feedback, whether it be videos that are made or forums or even individual stuff that comes in from content creators. The amount of feedback is epic to us, and we really truly look at every single thing to make Diablo 2 the best game, or continue to be the best game that we can possibly make it. So it really comes down to the community. Super hyped about the PTR coming up. Please jump on, give us as much feedback as possible, and hopefully we'll see you there slaying some demons.
Yeah, just to echo that, like, this is not a, hey, we made these changes and this is now the right way to play Diablo 2. This is just as much the community's game as Blizzard's game. And we want to move it in a way where we're all having fun, right? There is no, we're done with D2. It's all cracked. We balanced it all. Like, that would be actually a very sad day. And so, like, we're super eager to see what what builds people come up with, what the new meta becomes, and just let us know. And thank you personally, Alex, for the opportunity. Like, it's super great to like get actual time directly with the community to kind of talk about these things. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks again, Alex. Really appreciate it. And then I will note to the community that we do plan on doing more of these in the future, more of these like Q&As and presentations of like different updates that we'll have. And they may be on Alex's channel. They may be on another content creator's channel. Oh, sorry, Mr. Llama. People are like, who's Alex? But then his name is on
right
Zoom, so you guys can see it.
Yeah,
but
they don't read.
We might be doing it with other content creators that you guys happen to follow or happen to watch play and or read guides from and so forth. So this will be all over the place, I promise.
Well, on behalf of the D2 and D2R and everything community, just thank you guys so much. I'm extremely excited for this. You know, I definitely am always wary when somebody comes in and says, we're going to change your favorite game. But, you know, looking at the changes, hearing what you guys have been saying, seeing your passion for it and hearing your reasoning and everything, it definitely gives me a lot of faith. And I know a lot of people are very excited for it, right? And believe in you guys making a lot of great changes as well. So there's always going to be the people that are going to complain about anything. But I think a lot of the people are really excited and really appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you all. And
thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, a huge shout out to Rich and Tom. There are other community managers here who are doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And this presentation and that blog would not exist without those two.
And Andre.
And Andre.
Yeah, Andre did a ton of awesome work.
Sweet.
Cool. Right.
Thanks, guys. And
thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you guys for the next, I guess, for PTR and all that stuff and whatnot. So
awesome.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
Bye,
Thanks,
bye,
man.
Internet.
See you guys.
See you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So they may be done, but I'm not. All right, so we got some stuff to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. This is really interesting. So right off the bat, we've got these two new rune words. So basically what they said was these two new rune words are going to be added, but they're not going to be in the exact same condition that they were. So these rune words originally existed in the files, and that's Plague and Pattern. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these, but they're not actually in the game. But they're kind of just like hiding there in the files. And so they're going to be adding these, and then let's go over them real quick. So we've got Plague, which is a 3-socket weapon. So no real basic classification there. And of course, they said they're going to be changing these, so let's not take it completely at face value, but let's look at them anyway. So we've got Cham, Foul, and of course that level requirement is completely wrong because Cham runes are obviously a lot higher level than just simply level 1. So we know for a fact it's got to be at least the level requirement of a Cham rune, which is much higher than level 1. We've got 25% chance to cast level 15 Poison Nova on striking, which is kind of ridiculous and could potentially make a melee Necromancer build item. Having a level 15 Poison Nova on striking is actually something that you could like literally build a Poison Nova melee Mancer around. We've got 20% chance to cast level 12 lower resist when struck, which is going to increase, obviously, the Poison Nova effect. So you've got this kind of really interesting, like just plague thing going on here, which is definitely going to work out very nicely. Level 12 lower resist is really powerful. I can tell you already that level 7, which is on Medusa's Gaze, is already negative 51%. So level 12 is going to be a lot higher than negative 51%. We've got level 13 to 17 Cleansing Aura when equipped. So not only does this cause poison damage, it also cures you of poison damage, which is nice. The interesting thing about this is it will actually stack with Prayer. So if you put this on a Prayer Mercenary, you could have Cleansing and Prayer together, and they would actually provide double the regeneration bonus. 1 to 2 to all skills, so you could end up with a crappy version with only +1. We've got 260 to 380% damage to demons, which is not the same as enhanced damage in general. So that actually functions like might. It's like off-weapon ED. We also have negative 23% to poison resistance. So not only do they give us lower resist and they give us a poison attack, but you also get negative poison resistance here, which just makes for a really interesting, just kind of like just poison build. I mean, maybe you could combine this with Venom on an assassin, or build a Necromancer around it, or put this on a Rabies Druid. We've got Deadly Strike based on character level, which does go to 29.7, which is a pretty decent amount of Deadly Strike. We've also got 5 to 30 fire damage, 25% chance of open wounds, which is nice to have. Freezes target +3, which is a little bad for a Necromancer if you were going to make a melee Necromancer, because it's going to kill your corpses. But if you were a poison Necromancer, you wouldn't be too dependent on the corpses. I don't know. We also got +10 strength on that, which is nice to have. It'll help you put on some armor equipment. All around this looks like a really bestial item, which could be used for quite a few different characters. I feel like there's a lot of builds that could utilize this weapon. But if you notice, this weapon doesn't have a lot of actual physical damage. So it's going to be a very low physical damage item, and it's going to be a very high elemental damage item. We've also got Pattern over here. So Pattern is the other one, and Pattern is a 3-socket claw. So this is specifically for assassins, and we've got 10% bonus to attack rating, 40 to 80% ED, a pretty decent amount of fire damage there with 17 to 62, 15% all resistances, 6 to strength, 6 to dex, 30% chance of blocking. I'm not really sure about that. Is that specifically to shields, or is that could that be used in a claw block scenario to beef up your claw blocking? That's a question that needs to be answered. We've got +2 mana after each kill, and we've got 1 to 50 damage added with lightning. It's a really cheap recipe, Tal or Tier. I mean, that seems dirt cheap, and it looks like it's going to be a relatively low level recipe all around. So that's definitely interesting. Then we also have a lot of other things that are going on here. So I'm going to leave these up on the screen. There's no reason why these can't just stay up here for now. Just leave that right there. Put this one. And put this one over here. And we're going to hop off of this too. I'm going to hop back onto Diablo so we have some background music. Why not? Got some nice Diablo background music. Who doesn't like Diablo background music? Haha. All right, so we've got a lot of other stuff going on here. Besides the Pattern rune word, which is added, and the Plague rune word, which has been added, we also have some other interesting things going on. The Impale skill, which I actually have my Impale Amazon right here. Let's go take a look at it real quick. So basically what they said they're doing to Impale is mind-blowing. So you got to understand this. In this game, there's only 2 abilities in the game that will attack a target with 100% accuracy no matter what. So that means that if you have an attack, you shoot an arrow, you have an attack on something, does this attack have to pass the attack rating, the M level, and all the other things to actually get to the target? And the question is, most abilities do. There's only 2 in the game right now that do not have to pass these checks, and that is Smite and Guided Arrow. So those are the only 2 in the game, and that means Amazon is going to be in possession of literally 2 of the 3 abilities which will bypass all defenses. I'm going to go ahead and take these Pattern and Plague off the screen so we can actually see what we're doing. So this is Impale right here as it currently is, and as you can see, it does a relatively large amount of damage with 1100 plus percentage. So what we're saying that this is going to be doing now is it's not going to be an attack rating thing. It's not going to be a character level thing. It's just going to hit no matter what, which is amazing. And then if that's not amazing enough, they also said, hey, we're going to apply a slows target effect when it hits the target. So that means that this effect is going to work very similarly to the way that a Clay Golem does. Clay Golems apply a slow when they hit the target, and that is absolutely epic. And right now, Impale is a relatively slow ability, and it does tend to miss very often. So, like when I go out here into the Bloodmoor, you'll see that it is relatively slow. But when it does hit, it does a pretty massive amount of damage. The problem is it doesn't always hit. There's a lot of issue here in can it hit? Is it actually going to hit? I'm gonna die over here because I am too slow to actually dish out the damage that I need to dish out. Put some lightning into their fear of lightning into the hands. And as you can see, the lightning skills are still way better than Impale. This is with a one-handed and a spear, and I can still use Impale here. But guaranteeing the hit, I think, is going to be very, very useful to this. They also talked about making it a little bit more difficult for it to be interrupted, which I think is important. In fact, they should probably just make it uninterruptible, to be honest. I don't know if they specifically said that. It was hard to follow everything that was going on. But we've got a really nice addition to that particular skill now. They also kind of like glazed over Fire Arrow and Cold Arrow, and Llama had to actually specifically ask them, are they going to do anything with Cold Arrow and Fire Arrow? And they kind of, they didn't really give like a satisfactory answer to me. They talked about the mana cost, though. The mana cost is kind of insane. And they talked about bringing down the mana cost of them, but I don't know if that actually is going to be enough. They also talked about removing the casting delay from the Valkyrie. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but when you cast the Valkyrie's skill actually reds out completely, and it's kind of a stupid thing. Let me bring myself down here so I'm not taking up so much room. So when you cast her, notice how it reds out down here. Why did it ever need to do that? I don't know exactly why they decided that the Valkyrie needed to have that particular casting delay, but they talked about taking that away. So I think that's a good step. The Amazon in particular, I feel like they definitely needs a lot of love, especially in this area, as well as the Poison and the Plague Javelin. I hope they take a look at those too. They didn't specifically say that, but the Plague and the Poison Javelin need a little bit of love. And the Holy Bolt Piercing. Now that is an interesting one. The Holy Bolt Piercing. I never really in my wildest dreams even thought they would make that kind of a change to a Paladin. But they certainly did, didn't they? I mean, we've got this is my test Paladin here. We've got Holy Bolt right here. This is maxed out Holy Bolt, by the way. So if you guys have never seen maxed out Holy Bolt, this is it. And maxed out Holy Bolt does like 4,662 to 5,250 damage. It's really quite high, but it only does damage to monsters that are undead. So when you go and you try and use this on something that's a demon, it doesn't do anything. But giving Holy Bolt the ability to pierce is going to be pretty big, especially in any kind of undead-filled zone. So if we're talking about Chaos Sanctuary, for instance, Chaos Sanctuary is massive amounts of undead monsters. If you came across a monster that was undead and magic immune, you could theoretically use Holy Bolt to kill them, which is something that has it's kind of what Hammerdens do already, is they use Holy Bolt to kill the undead monsters, and now they can use Holy Bolt to kill the magic immune undead monsters a little bit easier. It's not going to increase the damage of each individual bolt, but it will allow it to pierce and hit multiple targets, which is certainly nice. So if you can control your angle, you might get a little bit of love there. Also, Fist of the Heavens getting a buff is very nice. So Fist of the Heavens is a... I need to go to a character that actually has some mana. I know I have another test Paladin. I'm pretty sure. Bow and Spear. Let's see what we've got here. I have a lot of characters, by the way. I have a lot, a large number of characters. This dude's wearing full Millabragas, by the way, for no particular reason. Look, he has enough mana to cast Holy Bolt. Good. All right, so let's take him out into the moor and let's show you what Holy Bolt can do in all its gloriousness, shall we? So one of the main issues with Holy Bolt is the casting delay. They also talked about making Holy Bolts pierce as well, which is rather cool. So basically how Holy Bolt works is when you send down your little fist from the heavens, it sends out Holy Bolts for every undead monster that's nearby. So you see it sends out Holy Bolts depending on the number of monsters that are currently nearby. And they are essentially making it so that even these Holy Bolts are going to pierce now, which is going to be very helpful. If you've never seen Holy Bolt in the middle of a whole bunch of undead monsters, let me tell you that Holy Bolt in the middle of a whole bunch of undead monsters is actually a glorious sight. And I want to show you guys it, but unfortunately I don't even know if I have a Paladin that can actually go to Canyon of the Magi. I've got to have at least one Paladin that can go to Canyon of the Magi. There's my unique scepters. There's Farty Sparty. I know you guys are familiar with Farty Sparty. Farty Sparty is the best. Here we go. Here's my test pally. Test pally! Yes. Okay, here's my test pally. Alright, so we're going to go to Canyon of the Magi, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you use Holy Bolt, actually surrounded by a large number of undead monsters. And you guys are going to see the kind of silliness that Holy Bolt can have. And we'll throw Conviction up just for the giggles, so we can actually dish out the damage. But what I want you to see here is the issue with Fist of the Heavens is that it has this really long casting delay. And the really long casting delay just makes it so difficult to use when you're surrounded by monsters. You can't do anything. You can attack one monster, and that's about it. And the only place that Fist of the Heavens is actually good for in AoE is in areas with a really, really high undead presence. As you can see, we get all these beautiful Holy Bolts every single time we use our Fist of the Heavens, and that would allow for a really massive amount of undead damage to proc forward. The problem is the Holy Bolts don't pierce, so as soon as they hit a target, they immediately dissipate. And so even though it is a pretty massive amount of damage in these little zones, these specific zones, when you have a really large group of monsters, it doesn't really work out very well because the Holy Bolts just end up getting all eaten by one monster. And I mean, you already have this huge disadvantage of only doing damage specifically to undead monsters. So why are they going to punish you and make it so that the Holy Bolt didn't pierce? So that was a really cool change that I thought they really take a look at. And another thing, one of the other changes that they decided to do was make the Holy Freeze, Holy Fire, and Holy Shock auras deal more damage, I guess, the closer the monster is to you. So damage based on distance, which I think is a really interesting idea in general. If you use an aura like Holy Freeze and you come out here and you run along, you'll notice that most of the monsters are just kind of like shaking off your cold damage. Like, it doesn't really even do that much to them at all. All these monsters are cold immune to. Let me go somewhere where there's a little bit more like fire immunes and stuff. So in hell difficulty, of course, some more brutes. Give me some little Rockanishu, little Rockanishu bastards. So here we go. You can see they're getting hit by my Holy Freeze aura, but it really doesn't do very much damage. It's not really that impressive. I mean, this is max Holy Freeze aura with max synergies, and we're in Act 1 hell, and anything actually dying is probably just luck. Yes, I'm sure this is going to affect Tesladins. It's also going to affect Dream Sorceresses and Dragon Dins and pretty much every class that uses these auras. And I'm actually really excited because I actually really love Holy Freeze. We also have Holy Fire, which is rather lackluster in Hell difficulty just in general. Holy Fire does less damage than Holy Freeze and Holy Shock, and it has no advantage. Like, Holy Freeze at least has the nice slow and the chill effect, but Holy Fire doesn't have anything extra, and it doesn't really do as much damage as Holy Shock either. So, oh yeah, we're gonna go over everything, DeBurger. I'm gonna talk about it all. So, the other interesting thing that they talked about was messing around with the offensive auras. Thorns in particular was really interesting. So Thorns is a pretty huge buff just in general because Thorns doesn't really do that great. Here I am in Hell difficulty with max level Thorns, so 1010% Thorns, and the monsters can literally just wail away at me with absolutely no issue. Let me go grab a belt full of healing potions, and we'll play around with this max level Thorns real quick, just to be just have fun. One of the things that they said about Thorns, which I thought was really interesting, was they said it's no longer going to apply its damage when struck, but instead it's going to apply its damage on attack. So what this means is that, say for instance you're a Paladin. You've got maximum block, you've got tons of defense, right? So what in the world would ever convince you to use Thorns if you actually have to be hit for the Thorns to take effect? So what they did was they changed it so you don't have to be hit, you just have to be attacked, which means that you can block the attack, you can have the attack deflect off your armor, and the Thorns will still proc. And this is actually a very big change. Because in the previous version, the version that we have now, the main issue is exactly that. I'm like negative resistances on everything, aren't I? Super negative resistances. No wonder I'm dying so easily. In the version that we have now, it's super duper hard for the monster to actually get a hit on you, because most of the time you're blocking the attack is hitting you because of your defense, the attack is basically dodging. You're dodging the ability, and so the Thorns isn't actually hitting the target. And this is really a really big change. You guys are going to notice the difference. And they're also talking about scaling up the damage. One of the other things that he talked about specifically was changing it from a percentage to a flat-based damage. And this is a very interesting concept because changing it from a percentage to a flat-based damage may actually make it much more viable. So one of the issues with Thorns is that your hit points are very small. Okay, so the monsters in Hell difficulty don't do as much damage as you think. Like, say if, for instance, you're a maxed out, min-maxed character and you've got like 2,000 hit points. The monsters have way more than 2,000 hit points. So to you, the damage that Thorns is doing is actually a lot. But to the monster, the damage that Thorns is reflecting back is like minuscule at best. So changing it to a flat damage might be the better course of action, because the percentage is going off of the monster's damage and trying to up it to a level which would be usable. Whereas if it was swapped to a flat number, that would make a much more interesting change. So let's go over Assassin next. How about that? I think I still have a martial arts assassin sitting around somewhere. I'm fairly certain I do. Flaming Cheeto over here. Who doesn't like flaming Cheetos? Test Assassin. There you are, Test Assassin. So, Test Assassin. So one of the things they talked about was the traps. They talked about making Death Sentry less important, which was kind of interesting. They were talking about kind of taking some of the focus off of Death Sentry. They wanted to see people use more sentries than just simply Death Sentry. And Death Sentry is a very powerful sentry. They also talked about kind of beefing up the fire traps, because the fire traps are relatively unused. But I mean, one of them is the Inferno fire trap. So if they're going to be beefing up the Sorceress's Inferno, that probably also means they're going to be beefing up the Wake of Inferno trap. And maybe, I don't know, maybe having 6 Wake of Inferno traps on a boss or something might be pretty powerful. Who knows? If I'm not the one casting it, and it does decent damage, I mean, I might be a little bit more enticed into using it. However, if I'm the one that has to cast it, and I have to stand still, I'm stuck in this little stupid standing still thing. You know, that's not as great. I don't like that. We also have, they talked about some changes to the blade traps. So they specifically said they were taking away the delay to Blade Sentinel. You notice how Blade Sentinel has this really long delay on it. So that's actually going to be a really nice change, because Blade Sentinel's delay actually does make it rather useless. I feel like that was never a good thing, having that delay on the Blade Sentinel. The Blade Sentinel was never very good to begin with, but having the delay just made it worse. And now you should be able to, I guess, spam cast it, which might be nice. Probably with a cap on the certain number that can be up at any given time. The Blade Fury skill actually is kind of nice, but it could use some synergies. I really I would like to see the synergies for Blade Fury. He said that they were going to do synergies on the blade tree. If you can see right now, there is no synergies on the blade tree whatsoever, and and having the synergies on the blade tree is definitely going to make the blade tree a lot more useful. It's a big thing. We also have the what he talked about, which is adding more tooltip information. So how many of you guys don't know that Fade gives physical damage reduction per level? Because a lot of people don't actually know that Fade gives 1% physical damage reduction per level that you put a point into it. And the reason why most people don't know, unless they've looked it up or have been told, is because it doesn't say it on the tooltip. The tooltip doesn't tell you that it gives physical damage reduction. And it wasn't until Diablo II Resurrected that we were able to actually see it. So right now, if you look in my advanced stats panel, you will not see physical damage reduction. There's no physical damage reduction here, right? But if I cast Fade, you will see the physical damage reduction appear of 21%. So they're going to add in there to show you that it's giving you physical damage reduction, so people can actually see it. Same thing with the Paladin. So I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but they talked about the hidden cap increase for Paladins. So when you look at the resist lightning, resist fire, and resist cold skills, they don't tell you that they give you plus 2 resistances. So for every 2 levels you put in resist fire, resist cold, or resist lightning, you gain an increase to your cap of resistances. And let me go to normal difficulty so I can show you this. I don't know why I went to hell difficulty. I meant to go to normal. Normalis. So you see here I have 55, 55, 55, 71, and the normal cap for resistances is 75%. So let's take anything that we can to put on to give our little dude here some more resistances. So we've got a nice little Arctic War Belt, which now has brought us up to 85% cold resist. So because we have the points in this particular skill, the 20 points, we gain 10% more resistance for having 20 points in cold, resist cold. So it's going to tell us in the new version that it actually does this, and this is going to be a big thing for newer players, so that newer players actually know this without having to like be let in on the secret handbook of Harry Potter, where it says in the secret handbook of Harry Potter that if you say the words Nominis Patris Sancte Amen, you get plus 10% to your maximum resistances. That doesn't, you know, that's a complete joke, but still, it's truth. Like, if you just picked up this game, if you played it, if you never talked to anybody who's played this game, if you never looked up any videos, you would never know this information. It's hidden. So, we got more information. So the casting delay on Sorceress's Actually, no, we haven't finished. We haven't finished assassin yet. Let's go back to assassin. Let me not lose my train of thought. So one of the things they said about assassin, which really kind of struck me as interesting, is the orb, the charge orb setup. So if you look at Phoenix Strike has charge 1 is meteor, charge 2 is chain lightning, charge 3 is chaos ice bolt, right? Well, right now, if you go out and you attack with Phoenix Strike will build up 1, 2, and 3 charges depending on how many times you attack. And to release them, you have to use a finisher. So what they're basically saying they're going to change this to is instead of you simply charging up your ability with 1, 2, 3, and then releasing that ability, they're saying that you're going to be able to release each charge that you store up. So if I store up 1 charge and use it, it's meteor. If I charge up 2 charges and use it, it's the lightning attack. If I charge up 3 charges and use it, it's the frost nova. And basically what they're saying is that you will be able to trigger each charge of the effect in tandem, like 1, 2, 3, which definitely sounds like a lot better than having to charge up 3 and then immediately use up all the charges. So you would be able to build up a couple points in Tiger Strike, you would be able to use a couple points in Cobra Strike, and each charge that you built up could just simply be used as you attack. And I'm wondering if it uses up basically 1 charge of each ability, or whether it uses up 1 charge each attack. So like say for instance I built up 2 different skills. So let's build up 1 charge of Phoenix, and then let's build up 1 charge of Thunder, and you notice we've got multiple charges flying around our character now. We've got all these different charges, and if we apply our attack, they all disappear at the moment that we strike. But in the new version, are they changing it so that 1 like tier strikes, or are they changing it so that only 1 at a time strikes? Honestly, it sounds like to me that it's going to be a lot more of an active build. So right now, the way that they've got Assassin is it's like charge up your skills, use your ability. Charge up your skills, use your ability. Charge up your skills, use your ability. What they're going to be changing it to sounds like a much more active role, where you're literally building up a couple charges, and you go in and you attack multiple times, and multiple effects will be coming out. So, you know, if you've got Blades of Ice built up, you see Blades of Ice has charge 1, charge 2, and charge 3. So it's going to be less of a burst and more of a, like, an active actually fighting the monsters kind of a thing, which sounds a little bit cooler, but I'm definitely interested to see how the interaction goes with stacking them. Like, for instance, if Tiger Strike can be stacked with 3 charges, that's absolutely great. And even a Kixin might want to build Tiger Strike at that point, because if you can just walk up to a monster, charge up 3 hits, and then walk up to a boss, and then smack him 3 times for 3 different forms of damage, so a 1,500 hit, a 1,000 hit, and a 500 hit, you've got 3 really strong hits that you can apply to the boss with your first attack. It's almost like storing up, you know, a really nice little burst of damage at the beginning of the hits, which would be kind of cool. I mean, imagine you're fighting Bale and you're having a little bit of trouble sticking it in there with Bale. So you run over, you charge up 3 times on Tiger Strike on one of his tentacles, and then you run over and you use your 3 charges on Bale. It could actually be kind of viable for a charge up and attack situation. It's interesting. Let's go take a look at Sorceress. Sorceress. The Sorcerer. Flaming Cheeto? No, not Flaming Cheeto. Talrasha? Let's take a look at Talrasha. So we've got her set up with Max Faster Cast, but she's going to be interesting because when we look at her Hydras, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to come over here, because they talked a lot about Hydras. Hydras is really painful to use. It always has been a little painful. That's a classic character, Onyx, non-expansion. So it's a lot like traps, right? So it's almost like a trap assassin. but you can't cast the traps very quickly. You've got to literally stand there and just hold down the right-click button to get your hydras up, and they're not even really that like versatile, is what I should say. It's just painful to use them, the way that the delay works. And one of the things they talked about was taking away the delay, which I feel like is a very good thing. They also talked about giving Frost Nova a makeover and giving it, the treatment essentially, so it can do a lot better. And I really kind of like that. Frost Nova really is an under damaging skill. Maximum Frost Nova, because Frost Nova has kind of some crappy synergies, it's still only 345 to 410 damage. It's absolutely awful, especially when you consider its cousin Nova, which has basically like double the damage. So Nova has pretty much double the damage of Frost Nova, and it's the same effect. Well, since the Hydras can't move Maul, I don't really know if it's going to be that big of a difference. They also talked about changing the what would I call it? The distinctiveness of the frozen armor, shiver armor, and chilling armor. I always thought it was also stupid that the three armors synergized with each other. I felt like it would have been a lot cooler if the armors synergized with the skills. And so that almost, you could say, like, if I chose to be a Frost Nova Sorceress, like, this is the armor that I would use. Or if I chose to be a Blizzard Sorceress, like, this is the armor that I would use. Or if I chose to be a Glacial Spike Sorceress, then this is the armor that I would end up using. I think it would be cooler if they attached the armors to a skill as opposed to attaching the armors to each other. It just never feels like a good idea to build the armors when you have to build the other armors to beef up the armor so you can cast the armor with more armor. It's like that meme where, like, I heard you like armor, so I got you some armor for your armor so you could put it on your armor dog. But what could they do to actually make these more distinctive? Right now, they do have a little bit of distinctiveness, okay? A little bit. So frozen armor, what frozen armor does is it freezes the target. So that's the main benefit of frozen armor over the others. So what that means is that when you go in and you actually have a monster hit you in melee range, it has to be melee, not ranged. Let me see if I can find a melee monster. The monster is essentially frozen in place for striking you. Gotta take off some of this armor so they can actually hit me. Come on! I know I don't have that much armor. I got nothing! I'm 177 defense! Make a hit! There you go, he froze, see? And that is the bonus of freezing armor, is that it actually freezes the target. Whereas shiver armor does not freeze them, it just simply applies cold damage. So the interesting thing about shiver armor is that it actually does the actual damaging effect. So you get 276 to 328 cold damage. It doesn't freeze the target, but it does chill them, which is nice. And it has a little bit more defense than frozen armor. And then chilling armor is the weird cousin one. And what chilling armor does is it fires a projectile at any ranged target that attacks you, which is just weird. And it does like almost no damage, and it doesn't make any sense. I have seen some pretty ridiculous situations where a ranged attack would trigger the shiver armor repeatedly and in rapid succession and do a really massive amount of damage. It's only happened a couple times, usually when I was wearing Fortitude, and maybe if they upped the damage on chilling armor and made it so that it actually seemed kind of like a viable option to strike back at ranged targets, it might be kind of interesting. But it doesn't do enough damage. It even maxed out with literally level 20 and all synergies. It's only 148 to 191 damage. So if they want to try and make chilling armor into a more effective version, they're definitely going to have to up it a little bit. in the damage category. I was trying to find some more of those spear cats, but there's no spear cats nearby. Oh, there we go. There's some spear cats. So as you can see, they got immediately murdered by the nearby monsters. I have no idea who this is calling me. Do you want to guess what they were calling me about? They were calling me about my car's extended warranty. Let me let you know that that is what it was. What's up, John Cagle? Let's see here. So what else do we have? We went over Druid. We had a lot on Druid, so let's go take a look at a Druid, shall we? I know I have a test Druid around here somewhere. I also have Rabid Wolfpack, which is a summoning Druid. TikTok memes, ahoy! So let's take a look at the little bears and the little wolves and the little spirit wolves and little dire wolves and little ravens. So what did they say they were going to do? So first off, what they said they were going to do was they were going to add synergies to Raven. So there's no synergies on Raven right now. There's no synergies at all. So if you look, Raven is just a passive casted skill. Doesn't have any other effect other than just it's there, right? But the interesting thing about Raven is it does have some very nice effects. It pecks out the eyes of anyone nearby. It blinds them. So as you're running around and a monster runs up to you, the Ravens will run over and will make them blind. And this means that they can't see you. It can be a very effective crowd control mechanic. And I am definitely all for beefing up the Ravens and making them a little bit more useful. Because they're already semi-useful, but they're not like super duper useful. So they definitely do need a little bit of a touch to help fix them. They also talked about increasing the physical damage reduction based on difficulty of the spirits. So making the Oak Sage, the Heart of the Wolverine, and the Spirit of the Barbs a little bit more tanky, and so they don't die so often, which is a very nice touch. I think that's important. They do tend to die a lot, even if they're beefed up. Similarly to the Paladin's Thorns, they also talked about beefing up Spirit of the Barbs. So if you were a summon druid, and they do a good job on Thorns, it might be a valid choice now to build a summon druid who stacks Spirit of the Barbs and Thorns together for that nice reflection. Who knows? Maybe you could keep it as a utility ability. Of course, my ravens over here are struggling to kill one fallen. They're not really known for their damage. Let's just say that much. We also have the wolves. So they said specifically that the spirit wolves are going to be doing cold damage now, which does sound very interesting. Cold is one of the worst elements as far as unbreakable resistances. But having another form of damage in the pack, essentially, would definitely be fun. So every time you come across a physical immune monster, you could swap over to the Spirit Wolves for the cold damage to take them out, which I feel like is a really, really nice effect. So if you guys have never actually looked over the wolves, the Summon Spirit Wolf actually has pretty decent damage, but is the one that you can summon the most wolves of, so you get 5 wolves. The Dire Wolf, you can only summon 3, but the interesting thing about the Dire Wolf is that they eat corpses, and when they eat corpses, they actually get double damage when they do so, which makes them very powerful physically. Unfortunately, none of the summons are extremely good by themselves. We also have the Grizzly Bear, which is the single summon, but he has massive amounts of health and pretty massive amounts of damage. So he walks up to a monster and he's going to show that monster who's boss. Unfortunately, it's a lot like having a single damage target. character. So like take for instance my Vengeance Paladin. He runs around, he does massive damage. He can hit one target and he can do that a lot of damage to that one particular target. But he's not going to do a massive amount of damage to multiple. And when you're fighting multiple monsters, he really starts to you know, not really do very well. And then combine that with the fact that the bear doesn't really know what he's doing. He runs around and just kind of does his own thing. Like if you want him to attack this monster over here and he doesn't, and he runs over there and attacks the Spike Fiend, the way that his AI works makes his single target damage a little less effective. So I'm really kind of glad that they're looking over the summons in general, because I'd like to see a summon character work. They also talked about removing the random HP on them so that they now have a flat HP when they summon, so you don't end up with the really weak ones that die all the time. They were specifically talking about how that certain wolves were spawning with really, really low HP, and that's why you would have these wolves that would just die all the time, because they spawn within a range, and they took away that range, like apparently completely, and they made it more a flat effect, which is nice. Yeah, target summoning your minions is something that you do when your bear isn't paying attention. So, like for instance, if I want him to attack this monster right here, I would target summon him directly on the monster that I want him to fight. But you notice this monster is immune to physical, and the bear can do absolutely nothing to him. So imagine I was in this situation. Well, now I could summon my Spirit Wolves because they're going to do cold damage. I could target summon my Spirit Wolves on this monster, and since they're doing cold damage now, I should theoretically in the new game of 2.4 be able to kill that immune to physical monster with the Spirit Wolves, which sounds like a good thing. They also talked about doing a little bit of work on the bear. I don't think they were very specific about what they were going to do with the bear. So unfortunately, I don't really have a lot of information on that, or at least I must have missed it. They did talk about Fire Claws, though. So this is something that's really important. So Fire Claws is just this really, really intensive skill that you have to put so many synergies in. I think this is something I want to run to town for real quick, because I'm gonna talk about this with like half my screens open. I mean, it would be sort of a nerf to Spirit Wolves Maul, but the Dire Wolves were always superior in damage to the Spirit Wolves because of the double damage effect. A lot of people would never take that into account. So because the summoned Dire Wolves can double their damage by eating corpses, they're actually superior in physical damage to the Spirit Wolves. So there was never really any reason to run the Spirit Wolves. It would just split your damage up even further. So switching the Spirit Wolves to cold damage and leaving the Dire Wolves as physical is actually kind of an interesting change. And then, of course, the bear is probably still going to be physical damage as well. So let's take a look at the elemental tree. So Fire Claws has Firestorm, Molten Boulder, Fissure, and Volcano as its synergies, with 22% fire damage for each. Right, so to get to Fire Claws, you need to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points just to get to Fire Claws, right? You also have to spend 20, 40, 60, 80 points to beef up the synergy of Fire Claws, along with another 19 points to beef up Fire Claws to its maximum. So you're looking at 100 points just to get Fire Claws to its max. And that's before you put any points into Werewolf, Lycanthropy, Werebear, Lycanthropy, or any other skills that you would like besides this. And it also rather seemed very silly that Armageddon wasn't one of the skills. So if you guys are unaware of this, when you shapeshift into a bear or a wolf, the only spell that you can really cast as a shapeshifting druid is Armageddon. So if I run out here and I pull out my my spell tree, Armageddon is the only one that I can actually cast. And do I have? Let's go to my test druid real quick, because we can look at some more stuff on him besides just simply the stuff that's on that character. Test druid. Here you are, test druid. So let's say you've shapeshifted into your bear form, right? You have your Fire Claws ability on the ready, right? So you are a Fire Claws bear, and you are running around and you're trying to dish out damage. Well, they forced you to build 4 different synergies: Firestorm, Molten Boulder, Fissure, and Volcano, right? But you can't cast any of those from the bear form. So Firestorm, Molten Boulder, Volcano, and Fissure, none of them can be cast from the bear form. The only one that can be cast from the bear form is Armageddon. But Armageddon isn't one of the synergies for Fireclaws, which is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. If you were going to make a Fireclaw Druid, why not at least let him build the synergy for the one skill that would actually make sense for him to build? And I hope that that's one of the changes that they make. I hope they add Armageddon to the synergy list on Fireclaws, and maybe reduce some of the synergy, the intensive synergy requirement for Fireclaws, because Fireclaw just has way too many synergy requirements to actually make it worthwhile. Once you kind of diminish, I think, some of the synergistic requirements of Fireclaws, it would probably become more of a viable skill for both the bear and the werewolf. And honestly, the bear needs it more than anything, because the bear just needs a lot of love. He just really doesn't have a lot of very good abilities. He's got Maul and he's got Shockwave. Shockwave doesn't really do very much damage at all, but it does have a nice like crowd control effect. And if I remember correctly, Hunger doesn't work. So literally, out of all of the skills that the bear had, Fireclaws really wouldn't even work for him. Hunger didn't work. Shockwave did no damage, and the only thing you were left with was a Maul Bear. That was it. I don't think necessarily they're saying that Fireclaw was weak, but more so that it just had too much of a synergistic requirement. That Shockwave is pretty OP with its crowd control. It really is. It has a stun length of 14.8 seconds when it's completed. I don't know if you guys have ever actually seen Shockwave just hold targets in place for ridiculously long periods of time. I mean, this is literally he literally can't move for like almost 15 seconds. And you can spread this out, and you can really make it work to your advantage. You can go into groups of monsters and you can just stun everything. I'm literally like 81 HP. I don't even care. Everything's stunned. Stay stunned. How about that? Shockwave is exactly. You can literally build a bear and just run around shockwaving everything, and nothing can fight back. It's pretty funny. I think I like how it looked in the original game better, though. I thought it looked kind of cooler in the original game. I don't know why. I just kind of did. What else did they talk about? They talked about Arctic Blast, and that was a blast, literally. Arctic Blast is a very weird skill, and you know what's funny is I actually tried to build an Arctic Blast Druid at some point. So I actually at a certain point I actually tried to build myself an Arctic Blast Druid, and it ended up turning into a Hurricane Druid, because thankfully if you take a look at the tree, Arctic Blast has synergies with Hurricane, so I had to build Hurricane to build Arctic Blast, and that was actually something that they talked about. They talked about taking the synergy of Hurricane away from Arctic Blast, because it's such a low-level skill that it didn't make sense that Arctic Blast had a Hurricane synergy in the first place, requiring you to go all the way down the tree to build basically what's a really low-level skill. They asked the question, Onyx, and they kind of laughed and they avoided the question. So they actually did ask about the shape-shifting, or the multiple summons at the same time, and they were like, "We'll talk about it." So Arctic Blast has always been a really terrible skill, and as you can see here I am in the hell difficulty in the Bloodmoor, and of course that monster's cold immune, so that doesn't really help. Let me go to somewhere where I know there's not a lot of cold immunes. So you can see that Arctic Blast does have an interesting crowd control effect, which I believe is one of its endearing qualities. If you guys have never actually looked at Arctic Blast crowd control effect, it's actually very nice. Neelathak actually uses Arctic Blast, and for some characters who don't have Cannot Be Frozen, it can be deadly to you to be chilled for 18 million years from his stupid Arctic Blast. And then he starts corpse exploding everything, and you can't do anything about it, which I always thought was pretty funny. So you can't even run away from his corpse explosions because you've been chilled. So, you know, make sure you got some Cannot Be Frozen when you fight Neelathak. One of the biggest issues with this skill, though, is you can't move while it's being cast. And this is just a huge downside. When you're trying to fight somebody and you're a caster class, you're already a weak class because you've specifically built your character as a weaker class. And that's exactly what caster class usually end up being. And then you put yourself in a situation where you're literally trying to kill a monster who's running right at you. You know, it's coming right for us, and you can't move because you're casting your ability, and it never was a good idea in my opinion. I don't know why they decided specifically to make an ability like this that you literally can't move while casting, and doesn't even really do that much damage to the monsters that are coming at you. So you're literally trying to cast this on them, and you can't. And because as soon as they get close to you, you've got to run away, otherwise you die. Inferno was even worse. So Arctic Blast versus Inferno is a funny story, because Inferno doesn't have the crowd control. So at least Arctic Blast slows down the monster and gives you a little bit more time to actually use the ability before the monster comes up and hits you in the face with his fist. Just saying. So I actually do hope that they do a little bit of work on Arctic Blast and Inferno and make them a little bit more viable. But do keep in mind that there's a lot of monsters in the game that use Inferno, like Pit Lords. And you know how, like, the Infector of Souls, a little group, he's always extra fast, and they all rush you at the same time, and then they all cast Inferno on you at the same time, like that, and so you get this massive spike of fire damage that comes at you from literally, like, 9 or 10 different targets. If they beef up Inferno, the Infector of Souls is probably going to murder everybody that doesn't have decent fire resistance. You're probably going to walk in there, like the little Infector of Souls pack is going to rush you, and they're going to cast Inferno in your direction, and you're just going to drop to the ground, which I think would absolutely be hilarious, because Infector of Souls is already well known for murdering people because of his extra fast. He always spawns with extra fast, so as soon as he pops, he immediately runs over and he kills whoever is nearby. And it's one of the trollest seals in the game. If you guys are unaware, if anybody is standing within the Infector of Souls spawn zone and you hit the seal, there's a very good chance they're going to die unless they're pretty tanky. What else did they talk about? Necromancer. They talked about Necromancer, right? The Necromancer. Let's make a game. Bink. Conviction, Infector of Souls. Let's do it. Oh yeah, the Inferno from in the Flayer dungeon. That is really interesting. Oh, speaking of which, they said that if you guys missed it, there's no more skipping Act 3. So they pretty much said in a nutshell that you're not going to be able to skip Act 3 anymore. You've got to break the Compelling Stone, and I think that's actually a good change. I actually get pretty tired of people skipping Act 3 all the time. I like to actually play it sometimes. I skip it too on occasion, and sometimes I feel obligated to skip Act 3 because everyone else doesn't want to play it. But removing the option for them to skip Act 3 is just going to make me giggle, because I'll be like, oh, we're in Act 3, and they're like, oh no, we can't skip it anymore. And they literally just go in the corner and commit suicide because they don't want to run through the jungle. I got grim real fast. That's right. You will be forced to actually learn how Act 3 works and figure out the maps instead of just mindlessly, brain-numbingly, like, wandering through them. There actually is a method to the madness, and if you learn it, you can figure out how to get through Act 3 fairly quickly. So changes to Necromancer. They talked about beefing up the Blood Golem. They talked about beefing up the Skeleton Mages. Both of which are welcome changes. They also talked about beefing up the bonus to bone armor. So bone armor never was good to build by itself. Like putting points into bone armor was really, really dumb. Because the bone wall and the bone prison actually gave more to bone armor than bone armor gave to itself. It was stupid. So putting points in bone armor now, apparently with this 2.4, will at least give more than the synergies are giving to it, which is nice. We also have talk about what was the other thing they were talking about in here? They didn't specifically say anything except for weaken. He said they were going to be taking a look at the curses, and he said they were going to be starting with weaken. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with weaken to improve it. But, going forward and looking at what they did to impale, with making pale slow a target and making impale always hit, they must have some pretty interesting ideas on what to do with weaken. And what the real thing about weaken, the real issue with weaken, is that it's usurped by decrepify. So decrepify is negative 50%. To the same effect that weaken is only negative 33%. So it really kind of just like completely makes weaken useless. Not a lot of abilities in the game do that. Like you don't just like go straight from one ability to another. Like you don't go from the clay golem to the blood golem and then immediately be like, okay, the blood golem is just far superior in every way. I'm never going to use the clay golem again. No, each one of these golems has their own specific purpose, and I definitely feel like each one has their own strengths. But with the curses, weaken is literally the inferior version of decrepify. You should never be using weaken if you have decrepify, because decrepify is just the superior version of weaken. Because not only does decrepify reduce their damage by 50%, it also reduces their speed, it reduces their physical resistance, and it's just a far superior curse all around to weaken. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to weaken to beef it up. And it sounds like they're going to be working on a couple curses to make them better, which is definitely going to be interesting. They also talked about Barbarian. So let's go pick up Mr. Barbarian. Ah, yes. The Barbarian. Where you at, Barbarian? I know you're here. Immortal King. Here you are, Barbarian. Yes, I was talking about the Zon changes earlier, Mark Fondeville. Of course, this will all be up on YouTube for you to watch later if you want to go over it. All 3 hours and 30 minutes of it. So let's talk about the shout that they talked about adding to Barbarian. So specifically, they talked about adding Battle Cry. So not War Cry, but Battle Cry. They talked about adding Battle Cry to the Mercenary. So Battle Cry is negative 46% enemy damage and negative 92% enemy defense. So think about Battle Cry as a beefed up version of Improvision, which is on the Rogue Mercenary. And when you use it on monsters, they get this little effect above their head. So it is very similar to a curse. And I'm pretty sure that curses actually override it. So you won't be able to use this with something like Amplify Damage. But do keep in mind that negative 92% enemy defense is enough defense that literally you could walk up and punch them in the face. Like, the amount of defense that they have at this point is relatively nothing compared to the attack rating that you have. And this will make a huge difference in in your ability to hit the target. So if you're having trouble hitting the target, if you're a Zeal Paladin who needs attack rating, or if you're a barbarian who needs attack rating or something like that, this spam could actually come in handy, because you're gonna be in the middle of the monsters. You're gonna get that negative 46% damage. You're gonna get that negative defense, and it's gonna be very useful. And as you can see at level 22, it's 62.4 seconds there. What's up, Silveraku? Good to see you again, man. So that's interesting addition to the Act 5 Mercenary, and I hope they go a little bit further than that, and they really kind of play around with some other things, which I'm interested to see what they choose, because there are some interesting choices here. I feel like Taunt would be a good choice. I may have to eventually, when they have maybe some sort of like round table or something, and they're asking for suggestions, I'm gonna have to bring Taunt up, because Taunt is specifically an ability which causes monsters to run over and beat the crap out of you. It reduces the attack rating of the monster by 47%, and it reduces their defense, or their damage by 47%. And I feel like a mercenary having Taunt could be really useful, just to sort of grab the monsters and bring them together. If you can make your monster, your mercenary tanky enough, Taunt could certainly be a useful addition to your mercenary. I could see Taunt being a fun little one to have for your mercenary to have. And they also talked about making like the Singer Barb more viable. And I was laughing because they talked about the thing that I talked about, which was, if you've ever looked at Berserk, you notice how Berserk has two synergies, which is Howl and Shout. And one of them, Shout, is literally a skill that enhances your defense. And if you've ever used Berserk, you will know that when you use Berserk, your defense goes away. So you see how I have 10,735 defense right now? When I use Berserk, it goes to 0. Okay? So literally, they put a synergy on the skill that increases your defense on a skill that nullifies your defense. It's probably one of the dumbest synergies I've ever seen. And so they talked about removing that synergy and putting it on something else, which makes more sense for Berserk. They're gonna put something else on there that's a little bit better than Shout. I feel like they could go with a lot of things. Most notably, Taunt, I feel like, could be an interesting choice, because Taunt is that negative 47% enemy's damage. And if you're going to get hit no matter what, it'd be nice to make sure the monster's not hitting you as hard. Or perhaps Battle Cry, which also has the negative enemy damage on it. Both of those could be interesting from a Berserk standpoint. Berserk is a very powerful skill, but it also has a lot of drawbacks to it. Most notably, it sets your defense to 0, and it also completely nullifies your ability to lifesteal. So that's interesting. They also talked about adding a new synergy to Frenzy with what did they call it? Stamina. They're gonna add increased stamina as a synergy to Frenzy, which I thought was rather interesting. And they said they were going to add a damage bonus on Double Throw specifically. So again, I don't know if you guys know this, but Double Throw has no inherent damage on it. So building Double Throw to level 20 gives you 0% enhanced damage. And the only enhanced damage that you can get on Double Throw comes from Double Swing. So you have to actually build Double Swing to get the damage on Double Throw. And I always thought that was a little dumb. So they said they're going to actually put enhanced damage on Double Throw to make it more viable, which I think is going to be a pretty big boon. What else were they talking about? They talked about Leap a little bit, but I kind of missed what the point that they had with Leap. Does anybody remember exactly what they were talking about with Leap? Increasing the stun range or something. God, I can't remember. I'll have to review my own footage. I cannot remember. It was it leap attack? Oh yes, the speed of the leap. That's what they were talking about. So if you guys have ever have you guys ever leaped before? Let's actually go play with Leap and let me show you. They're talking about increasing the speed at which Leap leaps. So let's go somewhere where leaping is absolutely fun, and we'll have a little bit of interesting time with this. So we'll go to Arcane Sanctuary. That's a good place for leaping. Who doesn't like to leap in Arcane Sanctuary? Fools, I say. So you notice how leap is just really kind of a slow jump. Like it's like... So what they are talking about doing is increasing the speed of the leap so it's not so long, drawn out, and dramatic, which I believe is going to be a really, really nice change. Making it so that you can actually leap quickly as opposed to just like this ridiculously drawn out leap. Yeah, you literally jump like you're on the moon. Exactly, Mr. X. It's like you're jumping like you're on the freaking moon. I don't even understand. And I think this is going to be a really welcome change for leap, especially for leap attack, because one of the main issues with leap attack is not necessarily that it's bad, but that it takes so long to use. You need to like wait like a full second and a half for your character to land, just so you can get one hit of damage off. And then when you get your one hit of damage off, what do? You got to leap again. So it's interesting. I'm glad they're giving some attention to leap because other than an ability to cross gaps, I think leap has been relatively untouched. I do know that there are some people who build the leap ability just simply for its ability to cause monsters to leave their vicinity. If you notice, if I'm spamming leap like this, the monsters are just kind of stuck and they can't actually make it to me. So there's just this constant, never-ending knockback that causes the monsters to stay away. I mean, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but it does need to be a little bit faster. I swear sometimes he looks like he's jumping like he's on the moon. Monsters are dancing to the rhythm of the beat. Come on, baby mama, gonna do that Congo. Come on, little barbarian, let's do the leaping. What else did they talk about on Barbarian? Grimward. They talked about Grimward. I remember that. They talked about making Grimward more effective. And I'm not really sure what they're going to do with Grimward. They didn't really say. Have you guys ever seen Grimward? Like, have you ever actually put points into it and seen it? Because I don't think most people have ever actually even put points into it and seen it. Let alone do they actually even know what it does. Like, really. Let's go play with it, shall we? Oh yes, we will play. So Grimward is actually extremely powerful. It's kind of ridiculous the way that it works. So as soon as it is cast, all monsters within range immediately run away and continue to run away for massive duration. And as long as the Grimward is up, any monster that comes within range of this Grimward will run. And it can be used to clear entire areas. And the beautiful thing is, so let's say we wanted to go fight Shank, right? But we don't want to fight Shank's minions. We kill one monster, we use a Grimward, and not a single monster will remain in this particular zone. I can fight Shank completely on his own without touching any of the monsters around him. And you notice they can't come over. Like, they literally can't come anywhere near the Grimward. It's not like Terror or Howl, where you have to cast it and then they come back, and you have to cast it again and then they come back, and you have to cast it again and they come back. No, Grimward literally just simply, you place it on the ground and the monsters literally cannot enter the zone. The entire radius of this effect, they are stuck, and they literally cannot enter. It's like a safe zone. You can use it for caster classes. You can use it for Amazons. You can literally just cast a Grimoire and they can just literally stand within its radius and nothing will be able to touch them except for elites inside that zone. So literally while I'm standing here next to this Grimoire, they can't do anything to me. They're stuck against the wall. They're completely helpless. And overall, people just don't use the ability because, number one, you've got to go through Find Potion and Find Item to get to it, which I always thought was kind of silly. They should take Grimoire and put it on its own so it could be a 1-point wonder as opposed to a 3-point wonder. The other interesting thing about Grimoire is it needs to do something else. I'm hoping that they do add something else to it to make it a little bit more viable, besides just simply causing monsters to run away. Maybe it could have some sort of buff to teammates. That could be very interesting. So teammates would get like a courage bonus from it, and the enemy would be scared of it. You know, like maybe it gives a small aura of damage or increased attack speed or something. I could see if they added some sort of buff to Grimoire that the barbarians might actually use it. And we'll see what they come up with. But I'm really voting on maybe an aura. That sounds really interesting. Some sort of aura-like effect maybe on it that would enhance your teammates. So let's see. We've gone over Amazon. We've gone over Sorceress. We've gone over Druid. We've gone over the Paladin. We've gone over the Assassin. 5-6. Who am I missing? Who did we not go over? Who? We went over the Necromancer, so we went over everybody. Okay, so they also talked about changes to the Mercenaries, and that was really interesting. They didn't really give us a whole lot. We talked about the Barbarian Merc already, but they did talk about the Act 1 Rogue, and they specifically said that the Act 1 Rogue would be getting, oh God, what was it? See, now I can't even remember. So much information to absorb so quickly. And now I can't even remember what they said they were going to do to the rogue. They said they were going to add a skill to the rogue, and now I've totally forgotten it. Was it? They said they were going to buff up Improvision. They said they were going to buff up Slow Missile. So Improvision and Slow Missile tend to be kind of like 1-point wonders, and they were talking about how they were going to make Improvision have a larger radius, so it hits more targets. And they also talked about how they were going to add like more of a reason to put more than 1 point into Slow Missile, which was definitely interesting. I'd like to see a reason to put more points in the Slow Missile than just simply 1 point. That's definitely an interesting one. What else did they say they were going to do to the Act 1 Rogue? They didn't really tell us what they were going to do to the Act 3 Merc. They kind of skipped over the Act 3 Merc, and then they really didn't tell us much about the Act 5 Merc, and they barely told us much at all. They also told us they weren't going to touch the Act 2 Mercs, but then told us they were buffing the Act 2 Mercs. But they didn't even know that they were buffing the Act 2 Mercs, I don't even think. So they basically, what they said is that in Act 1 or in Act 2 normal difficulty, you're going to be able to hire all 6 auras. And what they don't understand is that when you hire a mercenary in normal difficulty, he has higher stats than when you hire him in nightmare difficulty. So they basically sort of sneak buffed the Act 2 mercenary, because that means that the Might mercenary, the Thorns mercenary, and the God bless that, I can't remember the last one. Might, Thorns, and Holy Freeze. So the Might, Thorns, and Holy Freeze mercenary are going to have more stats than they had before. Also, since they are buffing the Thorns aura, they are also in effect going to be buffing the Act 2 Thorns mercenary, which is interesting. A beautiful lady's home. I'll be right back. I need to take a quick break. Sorry about that. Kitten went missing, and we had to go look for the kitten. If you guys haven't seen the kitten, he's very cute. He's a very cute kitten. Extremely cute. I don't even understand. It's like normal cute from like Garfield. Normal levels of cuteness. Yeah, you got to take a look at him, Neverworld. He's on there's a picture of him on Discord. Maybe I can pull up the picture. Hold on. You guys want to see. That's what you came here for. You came here to see my cat. Don't lie. You came here to see the cat. Yes, the kitty. Where's my kitty? There's my kitty. Aha. Save image. There you go. There's the kitty. I hope you like the kitty. There's the kitty right there. Meow. See, look. It's for cute. Him's a very cute cat. I'm pretty sure his name is Fry Daddy. He's underneath the bed. Did you get him out from underneath the bed? All right, guys and gals. So I think this is going to be the end of the stream. We've kind of gone over everything that we can go over. I mean, obviously, we've got new rune words, which we don't know what they are. We've got upgrading sets, which is going to be definitely very nice. And I think overall, there's going to be a lot of new information to go over. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the little bell icon, too. Because, I'll be honest with you, there's going to be a lot of videos coming out on this stuff, especially when the public test realm releases. And I'll probably be testing out a lot of these things as they come around. I'm also going to be on a little bit later today. Probably about an hour, maybe 2 hours. We're going to do a new character day. So if you want to join me for a new character day, I'm going to be making a... I was planning on making a Druid, but now that I know about all the Druid changes, I kind of want to wait and make the Druid later. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys and gals, and keep watching.